All right. And we are both live.
Sweet.
Good morning.
Good morning, Flashpoint. Ebontis, what's going on, man? Who do we have with us? What's going on today?
So we got a special guest, guys. So thank you guys for tuning in if you've seen it on Twitter. Now, I'm going to go ahead and pass this intro off to Lord Cognito because in the world of intros on Iron Lord's podcast, he'll make everybody blush. I've been through this, so I just want to put Mark through it for entertainment value. So without much further ado, Lord Cognito, will you please introduce our guest?
Absolutely. Well, we got to make it special. You know, we got to make Flashpoint join the realms of the Iron Lord podcast today. So it's a little special edition for our guest. So let's start it up. Welcome to the realm of Flashpoint, episode number 39. It is another glorious Friday morning, and we are back at the round table here on Destiny's Day. I'm extremely excited about our special guest, so we're going to get right into it. I want to introduce a Lord who is not only a fixture in the Destiny community, but is the host of the first and longest running Destiny podcast on the internet. This Lord is a true family man, and his passion for Destiny is evident with everything he does, including partnering with fellow Bubble Bro, Lord K-Dub, and everyone's favorite warlock, Lord Macy Shaw. Introducing the host and creator of Guardian Radio, Paragon Radio, and the Enthusiast Life podcast, fellow Stormtrooper, avid Mud Runner, and the Titan we call on to save Destiny in its darkest hour. Making his debut into the realm of Flashpoint, my man, Lord Mark Turcotte.
Wow. What's that, man? Oh my goodness. I think that was like the longest intro I've ever had anything. That was amazing, dude.
You're in the realm with the Lords, man. Flashpoint. We had to roll out the red carpet for you, man. It's a special day.
I appreciate that, man. Thank you so much. Yeah, you did your research. I like that. I like that. Doing some research for the guests. What's up, guys? Oh, yeah, thank you for having me here. I'm glad to be here. I'm always happy to talk about Guardian Radio or not Guardian Radio, about Destiny or anything just involving Destiny, of course, because we're all Destiny fans, right? And that's why everybody is out here just enjoying the game so much. And yeah, I'm glad to be here. Glad you guys could invite me to Bonsis. You and I go back.
Oh, yeah.
And you've been a listener of Guardian Radio, and I remember, was it the first? Well, I say the first Guardian Con, or I guess
first kind of real one. No, it was number 2, basically, the one that didn't accidentally happen.
Yeah, we hung out a lot that week, man, and we've missed you the last 2 years, which could have been.
Yeah, so I was like, well, this next one seems like the one to make sure and get to. So we were definitely got the info about that last time. So we're going to try and get out there to this next one because it looks all sorts of fancy in Orlando. Heard you guys talking about that actually just last week too. So, but no, I was like, literally, I met Lord Cognito at the exact same one I met you in person. So we were out there. We had the wings.
Really?
Yeah. So we were out there having wings that night. Like Cosmo came in. We're all like, shooting it up for a little while, and then that next morning we were all in line. We were both the crazy people passing out the business cards that we had for our stuff, like wandering around.
Dude, I might still have your business card in my wallet. I'm curious about that too. For the longest time, I would open up my wallet. I'm like looking for my insurance card or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, oh, there's a Bontis. There's a Bontis card.
It worked. It worked for one person, but it worked.
I still know who you are, and I still see you every day almost.
Oh, that is crazy. Yeah, so it's like I know we hung out, like you guys were awesome there, and I probably stalked your booth way too much, but yeah, it was like, we were walking around and bumped into Barry, and then we started talking and stuff, and then we were the craziest people of all who decided to start a Destiny podcast for whatever reason, but inspiration from you guys as well in January of this year when it was probably the worst time for Destiny ever.
I would agree.
So
you say that, but I think that was actually a good time because that's when you see who the true fans or the people that truly were passionate about Destiny. I mean, that's what killed me over this whole last year was seeing so many people put out the videos and put out the tweets saying, I'm quitting Destiny, blah. And it's like, well, do you need to do that? No, if you're not happy with it, that's fine. But seeing you guys come out and the Iron Lords podcast, you guys have been doing that for a while, Flashpoint coming out. Yes, this is the time to do it. You are true fans. And that's what, Guardian Radio has always been built off. We're just fans of the game. We're not trying to make it a business, try to make money off of it. We're just fans of the game, and that's why we do it. And I'm glad to see you starting a podcast in January of this year. Like, that's awesome. You are fans. And honestly, like, Bungie, for what it's worth, they see this. They see all these other podcasts springing up, and they see who the true fans are, and it's awesome. Glad you guys are doing it. Glad to be here. Lots to talk about, guys, for sure.
Awesome. Well, I'm grinning from ear to ear, so yeah. But stuff for today we've got to talk about, of course. A little preview of season 5. We've got the TWAB to cover, some changes. We've got Iron Banner, of course. Got to get some Mark's thoughts on a couple things. Just his first time in here live, and then we got some news out there in the world of Destiny and Activision, and just some things to talk about. Just general feels of things going forward for you guys. So, without too much further ado, let's talk about this week at Bungie first. Of course. We have Festival Lost has come to an end. Did you get your horror story, Mark?
I definitely did.
Of course. Did you? I think you finally got it on the last day, didn't you, Barry?
Yeah, I was procrastinating, man. Like, I really pushed it. It was just like a whole bunch of life stuff going on. And I was like, I forgot, I maybe had like 70 souls, fragmented souls. And I'm like, look, I got to get this thing done, man. So yeah, I just grabbed shout out to Lord King and Lord Monkey. They helped me out. And we just grinded that thing out, got some bounties done, and got my my horror story, man. It was Zen moment, my rampage. I was a happy man.
Can I share a quick story here about the horror story? I don't know if you follow my co-host on Guardian Radio, Destiny K-Dub.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes.
He, like you, slacked it a little bit throughout. I mean, now granted, you had 3 weeks, right? So anybody who didn't get their horror story, you only got yourself to blame. But he waited till the very end, and you know what? I'm sure he's going to share this on Guardian Radio, but I'm going to jump the gun here for all these people because this had me cracking up. Like the night before when we recorded Guardian Radio, which was the night before Festival Lost went away, he said, I only have a few more runs I need to do. So I made it a point the next day to keep checking the companion app. See how his progress is going. Didn't want to text him or anything because I was like, you know what? I'm just going to let him roll with it and see what happens. Sure enough, he logs in at like 9 a.m. or whatever it is, starts doing his runs. It's looking good. I keep popping in. I'm like, oh, he did another run. And then I see him off like exploring on the EDZ. Okay, I don't know what he's doing, wasting time. Just keep running the haunted forest. You'll get it. Yeah. Well, he didn't realize that due to daylight savings time, now at 12 and not at 1.
Oh, no.
He was literally on his last run at 12 o'clock. And while he was running, he said it popped up in the corner when the reset happened, saying that the next step in the Master Ives quests had popped into his inventory. So he's like, you know, what the hell was that? Why did that pop up?
Oh, no.
Finishes his run, goes into his inventory. All the fragmented souls are gone.
Oh,
so he did not get his horror story. And of course, you know, he goes out on Twitter and tweets about it like, oh, what the heck, Bungie? You know, I didn't know the reset. And of course, that just opened it all up for everybody tweeting at him. I'm like, why would you even tweet that? Like, you're just opening yourself up to be ridiculed. Like, you can't be mad about that. So yeah, so he didn't get his horror story. And I mean, that was, to me, like this event, they need to do that moving forward. Every event, give that little carrot at the end of the stick. I mean, a 600 weapon that was, I mean, it was easy to obtain. Sure, it was a little bit of a grind, but hey, that was a hell of a reward at the end. Yeah. And K-Dub didn't get it. So
that truly is a horror story. Man,
he has the horror story, or his own horror story. He doesn't have the horror story. He has his own horror story. I thought that was great.
That was a good
okay, and my heart just literally broke. Sorry, K-Dub. That hurts my soul a little bit, especially to go through the grind too. Because I mean, you do it a little while. It's like you go in with randoms and stuff. Like I did most of mine with randoms. I would go in. I got to about 7. I think I got to 8 once. Just kind of depends on if you had the group that had their act together. But you go through it enough, and you're like, okay, it kind of gets a little repetitive. And that was kind of the thing. Like I like how, for one, this is probably the best like festival event that they've done for sure. But I also like how the fact that we had something to do in the Infinite Forest. This is what I said to Cognito like a long time ago. They finally put it to use in what we all wanted. It's an infinite thing repeated over and over. And it was like a step in the right direction. Is it like, because there was one thing to grind for. But if you had, if it was continue, like if there was a set of armor in there, some weapons and stuff, if they could bring it back or some variation, it was really nice to see something we could actually get a glimpse of, which was really nice.
Yeah, and I think also the fact that you had basically 3 weeks, and all you had to do was run that bounty, which was complete. 15 daily bounties? Yep. You got 40 shards right off the bat, and that didn't even really take that long to do those bounties. Or even if anything, even if you logged in, some of those bounties were tied to the haunted forest, where it was get 20 kills with a grenade launcher or whatever it is. So it's like, all right, let me just go pick up 2 or 3. And I'm going to run the haunted forest anyways. You were going to get that. But I think I did just the first week. I think I got the 40 drop from that. And I mean, that immediately bumps you up. And so if anybody was just logging in for just a few hours a day to do those, you would get it pretty quick. So
yeah, I was talking with Lee when it first happened, I think, because he knows my priority was like definitely Crucible. So I believe when it dropped, Festival of Lost was at the same time Iron Banner was like concurrently. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna make a tactical decision the first week not to touch it and just like do my Crucible stuff, get Iron Banner out the way, because that was when the switch happened with powerful gear being allotted to every Saladin bounty.
Right. Yeah.
Light level, let me get that done. But week 2 and week 3, you know, I'll start chipping away. So I was chipping slowly. I pushed it to the very end at the end.
Yeah.
Got it done. Got it done.
Good.
So yeah, I mean, it was a cool event. I like to see. I mean, this is the first event of Forsaken, and I think they stepped off on the right foot. We've got Black Armory, which is coming. I know there's speculation about what's coming out there. I know we've kind of talked. Kind of want to get your feel, Mark, too. Like, I know the annual pass is a big thing, and we'll kind of get more into the sales piece of it later. How much weight do you think is on Black Armory for like setting the bar? Because the annual pass is a big deal. What do you feel that's going to basically? Think it all the weights on that? Do you think they can spread it out, or do you think they have to knock it out of the park first?
I mean, they've already, I think, knocked it out of the park with Forsaken. So I think they just need to continue that. I mean, we can't have a Curse of Osiris type drop. Now, one thing that is what I'm really interested in is, you know, just I guess kind of I don't want to say the value for what this first drop is going to be, but when you look back at Curse of Osiris, people were kind of banking on it, kind of bringing story into it and this new space and all that. From what we know of these drops we're going to get here throughout this second year of Destiny 2 or for Forsaken, is that it's really just going to be new gear to acquire. So, I mean, we know like heavy machine guns are coming, and, you know, your Lord and all that whole class of weapons are coming. What can we assume? We're probably going to get 2 to 3 strikes probably coming with it. We know we're going to get a raid layer, and then some new game mode and probably some PvP maps. I mean, to me, that seems like that's going to be a good amount of content for us to get, but I think it needs to really, to the casual players now of Destiny, they need to kind of see that, hey, this is going to be worth my while, because we have so many people now that got Destiny 2 for free. I think a lot of people probably then played it and said, hey, I'll drop the $40 to get Forsaken, but what with this annual pass? And because it's not the same type of drop, I think, that we've been used to kind of throughout the whole series of Destiny, I think there is a lot kind of riding on it. And not only just because of to maintain the player base that's here, which, by the way, I think they've been able to maintain players pretty good so far, at least the hardcore players throughout Forsaken. But looking at what's around the corner, and when I say that, I mean things coming out in March.
Right.
There's some big things coming out. And they need to make sure that this annual pass is able to at least retain players. And when I say retain players, I don't even think it needs to be retain them to make Destiny 2 their hobby every day anymore. They just need to be able to bring players back when this content drops for a 2 to 3 week period. And I think that, if anything, would be a success. I think.
Yeah, I think you're on it, because me and Bonds have talked about this consistently. Like, you know, Forsaken definitely raised the bar. The quality's high. This is what the hardcore wanted. Tremendous success, reviewed well. But like you said, I think the next expansions are still key to maintain that interest, you know, keep that level of quality. And especially, like you said, come spring, February, all that stuff, you know, you got Anthem coming, you know, Division, all this stuff coming. The space is going to be very competitive. So I completely agree with you. It is imperative that they maintain that level of quality. And obviously, we know about the news that dropped today about Activision turning. Cool. I know we'll get into that later. But yeah, man, it's some critical times going on right now.
You guys think? I don't think it's as critical as it was last year. This time, you know, last year everything was riding on Curse of Osiris, and obviously they just, you know, hit a wall. With that. But at that point, it was too late, right? There was no way for them to fix Curse of Osiris after the drop that was Destiny 2 and how it casualized the game, basically. This time, I think they've learned a lot from all of that, and so I think it's definitely going to be a positive reception this go around. I just almost wonder, like, what is going to be the incentive to somewhat maybe chase this new gear? Because what type of Destiny gamers are you guys? Like, personally, for me, I am somewhat of a collectionist type person. I like to collect the weapons. However, I often just get set with like 1 or 2 weapons in each slot, and I just use them regardless. You know, like with Destiny 2, I just use my Nameless Midnight all the time. You know what I mean? And then even this go around, I have my set weapons that I'm always using. So it's like, if one of the biggest selling points of this DLC is all the new weapons and gear to acquire, that gear needs to be impactful. Like, I want that gear to make me change weapons in my slots.
Absolutely.
You know? I don't know. That's really what I'm looking at it as. Like, if they can deliver on that, then hell yeah. Like, it's going to be a huge success.
Yeah, I think one of the things we've been asking for is, Like, I think at this point, I do like the random rolls. They're nice. You have some variety in there, but I think I've seen most of the options at this point by playing enough. And, it's like I've seen my Edge Transits, I've seen my Better Devils, I've seen, my Vouch Safes. It's like we need more in that pool because the random rolls help, but now we need more options for those random rolls to fall on. So I think, as you're saying exactly, it's like a bigger weapons pool, more variety of things. And I think you guys were talking about this. We probably have too. We need some more, I forget where I've even heard it, probably multiple places, perks.
Yeah.
Like everybody has, because I have a Go figure with Outlaw and Rampage and Range on the Masterwork. I'm like, and that thing is a laser, especially on PC. But it's like pretty much everybody says it's Outlaw, Kill Clip, and Rampage. And it's like, if that's not on your kinetic, you may as well go look for something else. And they need to either boost the perks so we actually have a reason to look at other options like Rangefinder or Genesis or things like that need to have some weight to them. Because if we don't have more than 3 perks to go after, it's like then you're just picking up more trash and dumping it again. We need just weigh those perks a little better. That's the balancing I think that needs to come with this next expansion as well.
For sure.
Big time. I agree.
So yeah, I was like, there's a lot coming. It's like, and it's only like a month away because they specifically gave us a date for when this season's getting ready to end. I know the Luna's Howl figurine, like that thing goes away as an option on December 5th. So we know early December we got some stuff coming. So let's go ahead and jump on down into that. But before we do, Twitch Studio is going to come back up again for Bungie, which is always cool. I enjoy watching these just to get into the minds of the developers. Always really cool. We've got Gambit coming. They're going to be playing on Monday, actually this coming Monday, so right around the corner. And then the week after, they're going to be doing the Last Wish Raid Along. Now, that's the one I'm looking forward to because you guys actually had the interview with the 2 Gambit guys on there. It was Robbie and I can't remember the other one. See, it's like you're in the moment. I blank, but you
put him on the spot.
Yeah, I know.
Cooley, that's who it was. Cooley. Yeah, Cooley Callahan.
Yeah. So like just hearing those guys talking about Gambit and the whole progression they went through developing that thing was awesome. So shout out to anybody listening, by the way. Go listen to Guardian Radio. Look for that episode. It was just a few back. Yeah. And the Gambit developers really gave you an idea of all the iterations they went through to get to where they are. It's like it's a work in progress. We know it's going to change, but believe me, it is a different game than it started as. So that's really cool. And then the raid along, I don't know, I look forward to these the most. Like, what do you guys think? Have you watched the raid alongs before?
I've not really watched a lot of them, to be honest with you. I usually watch the other stuff, but what about you, Mark? You kind of
definitely. I mean, the raid alongs. I mean, when I think back to year 1, year 2 of Destiny, that was like one of the highlights, to kind of hear insight into how they created these raids. Usually they would have community members running along with them as well. I don't know what the plans are, what they're doing this time, but it's always fun to watch Bungie themselves do the raids and then just pick apart the spaces and you get some insight into why decisions were made on the different encounters. To me, I just always love hearing developers talk about decisions that they made and why the game is the way it is, why we as players, experience it this way. There's always a reason, you'll always hear things that they threw in the trash, basically, that were testing. And, when it comes to the raids, it's always even more interesting because these are encounters that are very, very difficult, very hard. They had to make sure that there is I don't want to say an easy way to do each encounter, but there is a way to accomplish the encounter, but not make it too difficult that it's so obscure that people just couldn't figure it out. It's kind of like, you guys play Mario Maker on the Wii U? Like that game, it's like, hey, you want to make this really hard, difficult level? That's cool. You got to beat it too, or you can't publish it. So hey, they can make this raid as hard as they want, but guess what? If nobody can complete it, even themselves, then they got to figure it out. So I think these are always great to watch for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you just nailed it because at the end of the day, you definitely want to know the thought process behind decisions, and as gamers, sometimes, we're not devs, so we have this tendency to be like, oh, all they should have done is X, Y, and Z, and I don't understand. And, but there's a thought process behind it, and in different levels, also skill levels of players. So it's very interesting with that kind of stuff and challenge modes and boss encounters and just physical game space, like just to see how that, because let's be honest, I mean, in my opinion, Destiny raids are some of the greatest content. That's what the community lives for. You see the excitement for the world's first. It's almost become a thing now. Like, world's first comes up with a new raid. You want to see how that's done. And it's just cool to see the community kind of galvanize and get behind it. So I will definitely be not missing this one. I'll just a couple, but I definitely got to watch this one because like you said, Mark, these things are really cool to get that developer insight.
Yeah, so
hey, I'm sure there'll be a Reddit post all about it. So if anything, the Reddit post, it'll be out there though. Someone will break it down for you.
Oh yeah, for sure. So we do have some upcoming improvements. We have season 5 is actually not that far away. They wanted to give a little insight into a couple things. They've got one of them. Now I play on PC. Mark, I know you're typically on PS4.
Yep.
Cognito, I know you're on basically Xbox. So we actually kind of got all three. Me, I don't see some of this as bad. What are you guys loading times like? Whether it's driving around in certain platforms or going into certain areas, what are you guys like? Because that's a big point right here.
This update coming with what they put in the TWAB, I think is the most important thing I've seen in the last year and a half. Like, this is huge. Although I was laughing, I forget what podcast I was listening to the other day, and they were talking about some other game and just saying how by decreasing the load times, it's taking away from their smartphone time. Like, what did we do before we had smartphones and loading screens? And it's like, you know what? That's right. Like in the morning when I'm loading into the EDZ, that's when I check Twitter. That's when I check my email. Now I can't do that. Like now Bungie's taking away my smartphone time. But obviously this is very much appreciated. I mean, I know Abance is playing on PC. It is insanely fast. Like whenever I fire up the PC version, you load into the tower, you're in. You load it in the EDZ, you're in. Mm-hmm. PS4, man, has really been getting bad. I mean, even to the point where if you're in orbit and it's like, all right, I'm going to go swap some of my gear around or look at my character or look at these perks on this weapon. I mean, it doesn't even load in the weapon. You can't even see it. Like it's been really, really bad. And I think it even got worse since the release of Forsaken. So this is huge. And I mean, the fact that they have to say, hey, the loading times are going to go from 2 minutes to 1 minute.
Did you guys ever play Bloodborne? Because that was a huge thing for Bloodborne's deaths. Was their load times?
Yeah,
it's
true. Yeah, I agree. I think I'm playing on the Xbox One X, and I have an advantage over anyone with a base Xbox. I'll notice I'll load in a bit faster. Than, like, say if we're about to start a strike, but it's the same thing, like Mark is saying, in the sense of like just going into the UI. I just want to switch a weapon, the loading to go through that, and even sometimes if I solo queue. I've seen myself just sit at a black screen.
Yeah, man.
Before you can actually get into a strike, and I'm just like, wow, this is really worse than the worst I've ever seen it. So I mean, look, for console guys, it's great they're at least addressing this. Ibantis is converting me, Mark, to the realm PC that should be shortly.
I should have made the jump before Forsaken. I remember I kept saying, I'm like, if you're gonna make the jump, now's the time, and I got her, man. The PC is just it looks so pretty, so good, doesn't it? It is gorgeous.
60 frames, and then the caveat of all caveats. So should we even talk about E? Is like it's free now, man. Like there's no excuse for me anymore.
Yep.
It's literally free. So it is free till the 18th, guys. So if you guys are listening, go find a Battle.net account. Make it yours if you don't have one already, and find a way to link Destiny to that and just click a download so it just links it, because then it's free. You get a big computer later, you're good. Yep. So find your way to attach that thing to it. I will say one thing I want to ask you guys. Have you ever guys tried to go to the tower, wait for like 2 minutes, and then when you finally go in, 20 people spawn at the same time with you, like everybody got their own new instance?
Yes, I've seen that.
I don't know if I had that, like just right like on top of you. You're saying just like
literally like nobody spawns in, and then all of a sudden it's like there's like 25 people that hit the tower at the exact same moment. It's like, here's a new tower that's opened. All of you get shoved in this one at the same time. Like that's the thing on PC I see the most, is that tower load all at the same moment. That's the slowest one for me. So all good things there. I mean, look, that's one of those things. Like sometimes they don't even normally have to say this stuff, and this is kind of when we started in January. We were talking about things like January seemed to be this big turn of tone for Bungie in how they would communicate. And since then, it's been kind of amazing. It's like somebody finally opened up like the TWAB and their communication. They get to say a lot more. And this type of stuff we probably wouldn't even heard about before. It'd just be this subtle thing. Everybody's like, it's loading faster. Now we know. So it's kind of cool. Yep. So that's going to be coming season 5. We've also got super tuning. Just one of these is I'll talk about briefly, but one of these, Lord Cognito, you're going to take the second one. Yeah. So for those of you guys with the Spectral Blades, there have been issues with this one actually making contact and things like that. And they're not looking to nerf it. They're looking to actually make it a bit more accurate and just actually last a bit longer. So they're increasing melee lunge range of all the attacks in Spectral Blades, reducing the cost of the light melee attacks, increase the number of consecutive hits required to speed up the attack rate. That'd be more of a PvE thing. But this is like, these are ones where they go into like, they say the point and they're smart enough to actually put the commentary before people freak out. They said they decrease the base attack speed to improve the hit registration on intended targets. They said this is not intended as a nerf. The goal is to increase the intentionality of the attack rate increase, so that more often it's actually when you're focusing on a single target. So basically, they just want to make each one a little more deliberate, so it actually hits. It sounds like.
Do you think that is maybe more intended towards the PC than it is on console, or is that more like a console related thing? Because it doesn't seem like to me like both. Like one I think has to be changed to. I don't know. Just kind of when I read that, I was like, is this more focused towards PC players, or who is having the problem with it?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. I was like, I didn't even realize this was that much of an issue.
Yeah, like is it maybe on the console because it maybe somewhat auto targets at that point, and then maybe on the PC it didn't, so that's kind of why the changes there. I'm not sure. I don't know.
That might be. I know there's been issues with like frame rates and things having proper damage and stuff like that. And the frame rates are an issue on PC more than anything else. So I definitely see that as being a thing. But I think when you're saying the aim assist, that actually might be part of it too. Because PC versus controller could be a thing. And then they're just increasing the viability of stealth mechanics. So small amount of damage resistance when you're stealth. It drains slower when you're stealth. So just give more viability so that's actually a cool thing. So not saying Spectral Blades needed a ton of help, but I know they had points where to let their effect be more, useful, they actually given it a bit of a buff, which is kind of nice to see. Now the other one, Lord Cognito, I read this and I thought of no one else in that moment. So take it away.
I woke up to your tweet. I was like, he's like, you're gonna like one of these updates. So Lord Warlock, I'm obviously a big Warlock user, and that's my main. So I've really been falling in love with the whole Chaos Reach attunement and that super. So one of the things I remember in the early streams, they would show it and they'd be like, hey, you've got this cool ability to shut it off instantly and kind of retain some super energy. So I remember at Forsaken launch, I'm like, why is this not working for me? Like I thought I was doing something wrong. Like I'm jumping in there, I'm doing my little Dragon Ball Z Kami thing, shutting it off, and I'm literally going back to almost 2% or sometimes nothing. So I'm like, all right. So I remember, I don't know if it was Damage, one of those guys, Chris Barrett, briefly mentioned it at the very early state of Forsaken in a tweet saying like, hey, we're aware, and we're gonna get to it. So I'm like, all right. Normally, Bungie's very good about this stuff. I'm cool. Then like TWAB after TWAB after TWAB, and I'm looking at Ebontis. I'm like, they're not talking about my Chaos Reach, man. Nervous, like what's going on? When are we going to address this? So at that point, I started to say, okay, you know what? This thing must be, as a developer, very hard to fix, because I've never seen them not mention it. It seemed like every other sandbox tuning was getting addressed, to the point where I was like, all right, I'm gonna be petty. I'm gonna tweet Bungie, hey, any update on whatever. And then it's so good to see this. So as we see, it says we're tuning the energy cost of deactivating Chaos Reach early. The intent of this tuning pass is to make it more rewarding to skillfully time your early deactivation when using the super. So essentially, it will be more punishing to deactivate the Chaos Reach super extremely early, but less punishing when deactivating later in the super. So the way I internalize this is when I read it is because I did think maybe one of the reasons why they were taking so long is because, it could borderline be OP with Geomags. If you're like shutting it off and you're having like 75% of your super, use Geomags, get it right back. So I think maybe from a balancing standpoint, they probably said, okay, we have to do something. So in this way, they're like, hey, if you shut it off too quick, you're not going to have a lot of that super energy, as opposed to you kind of, using it a little bit longer. So at the end of the day, I'm okay with it. You know what I mean? I'm just happy that it's being addressed. What do you guys think about the Chaos Reach?
I play a Titan, so
I'm not about that life.
That's Titan life, man. So for me, this doesn't really, affect me much. And I'll be honest, man, I didn't even know this was an issue.
Yeah.
That tells you how many Warlocks I even play or talk with. So, but hey, to make it maybe more viable for players to use it as initially intended or as initially pitched to Warlocks, I think that's great. I mean, they definitely should. And like he says, to make it more rewarding to skillfully time your deactivation. So it's going to put somewhat of a little bit of a skill gap to use it effectively. I think that's great whenever they add anything like that to anything in the game, for sure.
So Mark, what is your super of choice right now for your?
So using the Solar Titan and actually just the straight up throwing hammers, man. Like it's still just my classic. I actually don't even use. I mean, we were always in Destiny 1, always running the Bubble Bros. I mean, that's all I wore with my helmet Saint 14. But I just am straight up using the throwing hammer still, which I do love the Maul. I mean, the solar one where you're swinging it friggin' tornado. But because you don't really have the range on the melee, although I do like throwing that hammer that's for just your straight up melee where you can pick it back up. I mean, that's great. I usually use that if I'm knocking out bounties, because there's a lot of bounties where it's like, kill X amount of enemies with solar energy. That's the best way to do it. You just go to any patrollable space and just go out there and just hit a bunch of thrall or whoever it is, just throw your hammer, pick it up, throw your hammer, pick it up, and you have the thing done in minutes.
Nice.
So I love doing that. But yeah, what about you, Avantis? Is this change anything for you, the Chaos Reach, or what do you think?
I mean, it's just nice to have. Like, I remember seeing it too. It was like Cognito has, so we've talked about it a little bit. I started as Hunter in D1, and then probably since like King's Fall, I've been a Titan, mostly like you as well. My Hunter's actually my last one to level up, so it's nice to see as an option. But if you like, I don't even have the Geomag stabilizers, but Chaos Reach is that point where if you do want to just absolutely Kamehameha something, like, it's a beast. So the fact that you can use this thing and actually be able to kind of trickle it, and I think their whole purpose behind this was they're like, hey, I've got this super, but instead of holding on to it for that one main boss, if I want to melt a major for a little bit, I can do that and not completely waste it all. So they're actually kind of getting back to their purpose for it, which is nice. But for me, I've actually been enjoying, I love Code of the Missile. I don't know why for me that is so much fun to just be like, all right, I'm just launching my entire body out into the world and we're going to see where I land. And I just love doing that to either big bosses or I've done it to the Primeval before to finish it up. There's certain moments where I love that one. But honestly, I've been playing the Void lately. The Void, Code of the Commander, that grenade, if you get a group that chains, it's like fireworks going off.
That's awesome.
Oh, it's so good. I was going through the...
My issue with the missile is I'm just terrible with it. So I miss half the time and I'm like, damn it, I missed it. So
yeah, it's like there's times I think I was like, my gas tank runs out and then I like trickle and fall down. I'm like, if I just had a little more distance, it would be good. Like, that's one of those, it'd be nice to have a little more range on that thing. Because I mean, you can throw a hammer completely across the map. You definitely cannot go cross map with that super. So it'd be nice to have a little extra Iron Man boosters in the tank when you're doing that one. So but yeah, so a couple good supers. One I've heard everywhere. They're looking to add raid reset functionality and checkpoints for various activities. I don't know how many times I've seen it's either gigs or a couple of those other big guys be like, hey, where's my raid reset? Which is a weird thing. Do you have any idea why you think they don't have a raid reset this time around?
Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, I don't know. Does it tie into somehow with the the resets kind of what like on every 3 or 4 days? It's kind of, I think if everything just maybe got
the daily,
Yeah, I wonder if it just kind of threw everything into chaos kind of with that. I don't know.
But yeah, they're working on, because I mean, if you go in and even it's just annoying, it's like you run through it, or maybe you get to a boss, but you're going to go on a different run and you got to bring some new people. If you load it up, you just can't reset and start it fresh. So you shouldn't get the drops, but I mean, just to start it fresh seems
just be able to start it again, right? It's weird.
Yep. So if you guys haven't played, by the way, work on getting your free copy, but also free Gambit weekend coming up as well. These are cool. I like this because I don't know. I remember even listening to you guys. Like, I know you got to go to the community summit and just seeing Gambit. Then when it finally came out, you guys were like, "Oh, that's so much fun." There's times where I'll sit there and play Gambit for hours, and some matches I absolutely get worked because I do a lot of solo play. But when the matches go well and you're kind of doing that tug of war back and forth, Gambit is an amazing mode. Like, I don't know.
I mean, I hope the fact that it's other games, something similar to it, because it's so unique. I mean, there really is nothing like it. I mean, the best thing that I can really, put it towards is kind of it basically puts like that MOBA feeling into Destiny almost, where you're playing as a team, you're both battling in your own little PvE space, but then you're able to basically affect the other team and battle them, but not necessarily always face to face. I mean, sure, you send in your invaders and you're actually just playing a first person competitive game at that point, or that one person is, but it's like, hey, we're going to just kind of combine everything that's awesome in Destiny and throw it into this one mode. It's great. And then, what is this now? The 3rd or 4th Gambit free trial weekend? I mean, it's super smart with them giving the game out, of course, now free on PC. So I'm sure this is really kind of aimed at a lot of those people, but even the people that got it with PlayStation Plus back in September, it's a great thing for people to be able to kind of jump in and check it out.
Yeah, absolutely.
So have you killed your meatball yet?
I haven't, man. I'll be honest.
Well, I haven't. Like, this is your week, right? This is your week, though. Like, it's like should be even rotation of bosses. Like, play 5 or 6, you'll see it.
Yep. I should. I got to. You know, we're talking about people slacking or Cognito slacking on the. I'm slacking on the meatball, man.
Don't feel bad. I just got mine last week too. I'm screaming. I'm like, I can't believe it. It came out. Like, it was crazy, man. But
I will say, like, you want to like,
it's fun.
I will say, you want to raise your blood pressure. Wait till that thing spawns the first time, and it's like, oh crap! Like now it's time to buckle down. All right, guys, nobody die. Let's do this. I'm going to invade and kill everybody. Like,
maybe that's part of it. Maybe I'm just like, subconsciously not wanting to raise my blood pressure, and I know like just the internal just struggle I'm going to have when that thing drops, and it's going to make me so mad. If it's out of sight, it's just out of my mind. I don't even have to worry about it.
This coming from the guy who probably has like the steadiest blood pressure in the world, Mud Run Master over here.
Well, yeah, maybe.
I was like, literally, like, it's like, what do you do? What's your Twitter pick? Yeah, just me in the Spartan headband. Oh, what do you do? Mud runs for miles and miles. Okay, so you're in terrible shape, aren't you?
Yeah. Running every day, man. I run every day. That's why I listen to podcasts. The best time to listen to a podcast. People always work out. They think just listen to music. No, listen to a podcast or an audiobook or something like that. You get caught up in the conversation, and you just lose, not even thinking about you're working out.
Yeah, because songs you can actually feel be like, all right, I'm on like my 6th song. You just get into the conversation, you don't even think about it.
That's my issue. Not to sidetrack here, but that's my problem with listening to music. I'm like, all right, well, this song is like 3.5, 4 minutes long, and I've listened to 3 other songs that are 3.5, 4 minutes. So I've been running for about 16, 17 minutes, and that's constantly in my head. Where if you listen to a podcast, you're just not even focusing on it. It's just like I'm in the conversation. Sometimes you don't want to stop because they're talking about something you're interested in. And at that point, you're so involved in it, you're just completely sidetracked. So.
Yeah, you like get back home and like walk another lap around your neighborhood, be like, hold on, I want to hear this part. Like, I'll do that with you guys too. Be like, oh, so what's the news? Oh, we got the, it's a call-in show or something like that. Which, yeah. By the way, I guess for full disclosure, Patreon supporter of Guardian Radio. So just in case that needs to be thrown out there, full disclosure.
Nice. Thank you.
No, I've been doing that for just because like when you guys started EBD, that's always kind of a fun one to listen to. Some of the stuff you guys have done on there, I'll just like roll out of my chair, especially if you guys get to drinking a little bit and some of the shots. You guys are hilarious. So, over the years, you guys have had quite the podcast.
Yeah.
Legends over there, man.
Yeah.
Love the show.
So, and and this is why we say like the host of the longest running Guardian podcast. Like, I played the alpha, and you were literally doing a podcast before I played the alpha of D1. So,
yeah, dude, we did a show for about over a year, and it was over a year and a half before the game even came out.
Yep.
I mean, I don't want to go too deep into the history of Guardian Radio, but literally, I had been podcasting for years prior to Guardian Radio, so that's why we were in the spot where the crew that I had in the beginning, we could just podcast about anything. We always joked about, we could do a podcast about a styrofoam cup. We literally could do a podcast about a styrofoam cup. We could just talk about anything. And so I always wanted to do a game-specific show. And we had just heard rumblings that Bungie was coming out with their next title, and we were all big Halo fans, and we were hearing that it was going to be somewhat of this online RPG style game. They announced it on like a Sunday or something. I think the review embargo had released. 1 week later, we launched the first episode, and that day, Deej reached out to me because Deej was even a fairly new community manager at that point. Yeah. And he was like, "Hey, you guys are going to make my job easy just because you're talking. There's something, every week you're talking about Destiny." So we just immediately just kept it going. And I mean, dude, those first episodes were like 2-hour-long episodes talking about 3 or 4 concept art pieces, what the game could be. And that was some of the best times of Guardian Radio, because at that point, the game wasn't out yet. So like, it was just in our heads, this game could be anything. Right. So it was always fun just speculating about what it could be. And then when the game came out, the show obviously changed at that point, because then it was like, all right, well, we're no longer really speculating. We're diving into what it is. And so the show definitely kind of shifted gears a little bit at that point. But, we've just been rolling with it, man, since the beginning. And for me, it's just great to see how many shows have sprung up about. I don't think there's any other video game out there that has more podcasts dedicated to it. Because even like World of Warcraft, you go out there and look, and you have your big ones like the Instance, and there's a few others that are the big podcasts. But even the smaller ones, there's just not that much fever for it. Where like what did they do? Some of those guys recently, they did that Destiny podcast tournament. This was actually, I think, before Destiny 2 came out. It was like a whole just podcast tournament. It was like 32 podcasts or something involved.
Insane, right? It's a great point. And I try to tell people, I know a lot of people, Destiny get its fair share of hate. And, I get it sometimes for people non-Destiny players. But I will truly say there's no community like the Destiny community. It's a very unique, loyal, bunch, and at the same time, extremely passionate. And like you said, from your perspective, Mark, as far as like you being there from the very beginning, right? Seeing this thing evolve before we kind of knew what it was going to become. And it has to be interesting from your perspective just to see that, right? Just to see that growth and this passion still continue on, all throughout what's going on now. And obviously we're going to get into the whole Activision earnings call. But yeah, I'm very curious, like just like how does it feel? You were kind of like the Mount Rushmore of this. Like,
I mean, man, I step back sometimes. Like this Guardian Con, this past Guardian Con was probably one of the most impactful ones yet. And every year it just gets bigger and bigger, but for a couple of reasons. One was my wife got to go with me this time.
Oh, nice. And
so we've had a lot of, I always come back from Guardian Con and I tell her like, oh, we have all these people that are there. And, they come up to me and they say, oh, I love this show. And, thinking I'm just a humble person, or I at least hope I am to many people. So you come up, I'm going to talk to you, have just a great conversation. But for her to see that, for people to come up and it really this time showed the amount of people that have just discovered podcasting, not necessarily Guardian Radio, like people that would come up and say, hey man, it's nice to meet you. Guardian Radio was my first podcast. And now I listen to all these other ones. Oh, and hey, I started a show about
that's literally me, by the way. Like you're literally my first. And since then, like IGN and others and things like that, you're literally the first podcast I ever listened to.
That's awesome, man. Like to me, that is just the best. Because for me, I love talk radio. Like talk radio is something I've always been into. I was a very early like Sirius Radio subscriber. As soon as they launched that, I jumped right into it. I mean, I was listening to podcasts when you had to basically burn them. I had like rewritable CDs.
Nice.
Yes.
Baby.
Because I didn't have a iPod at that point. And so like that's what I did. And I mean, even the fact we're talking about podcasts, we're doing this on YouTube and Twitch right now. And this is considered a podcast. The term podcast is more for an iPod, right? But like it now has become way more than that. It's not just on an iPod. It's just a talk radio show essentially, and anybody can do it. And I love it because you can find a show that on a topic of anything you're interested in. Like my wife, we came back from Guardian Con and I was talking about, podcasts, you can find what you want to listen to. She's a huge 90210 fan from when she was a kid. Went out, found a podcast of some women breaking down episodes of Beverly Hills 90210. And like, she doesn't listen to it all the time, but she, listened to it on her walk and she's like, wow, it's kind of funny to hear them reminisce about that.
Oh my God.
Great. I love it, man. And I'm so glad that you guys are doing this show and people have found podcasting. I don't know. It's to talk about my perspective on Incognito. It's just wild, man, to see what this community has become. I mean, Guardian Con itself and the money they raise is nuts. I mean,
my God.
The first year of Guardian Radio, we did an Extra Life stream, which kudos to the Extra Life team. I think it was 10 years of Extra Life they did this past weekend. We did an Extra Life stream and we raised like $1,200. And that was like the little tiny Destiny community. We had like more console involved. Life was involved. This is 2013. The game wasn't even out at this point. And we thought that was the most amazing thing ever. Flash forward to Guardian Con 2018 and we raised almost $3 million. That's bananas, man. Like no community like it. I'm sorry.
I'm glad you said that, because that's the thing I always tell people, like, the whole St. Jude's thing, what you guys do, and then, just the community coming together. I've never seen that and it's no disrespect to any other game that anyone else is a fan of. It's just I personally, as a gamer, I've been gaming a long time. I've never seen that. And it's truly remarkable, man. And Guardian Con, full disclosure, like that's where me and Ebontis met. And it was just like, I'm talking to someone, I can see just as much passion about this damn game I have. We just kept talking for hours and hours, and we broached the subject, and it's like, man, let's do it. I know it's probably not at the best time in Destiny's history, but we love this game so much. So let's talk about the things that can hopefully get out to the right people and maybe improve, and just talk about our experiences. So really cool to see you guys continuing to do what you do and just trailblaze. Like you guys are the trailblazers, and we're very appreciative.
Thanks, man.
Yeah. I was gonna say, like when they did the Destiny Year 1 recap video, and I literally heard the Guardian Radio blip in there, and I was like, "Oh, there they are!" I was like, "I met those people." Like that little moment is like you guys are cemented forever.
Two things have happened in my quote unquote podcast career that I'm done. Like, what do I need to do? There's nothing else. One was definitely that, like that. Deej had reached out right before they did, which if you guys haven't seen it, go watch the Destiny Year 1 video that Bungie put out. And the video basically starts. You got like Bife, More Console, and us, and you hear our music going. If you watch that video, there's all these little clips. You hear my voice pop up a lot. And Deej said when they made the video, they literally went back and were like, hey, what was happening throughout the year of Destiny? Oh, let's just go to Guardian Radio, because they were putting out a show every week. Guardian Radio, and one of the coolest things that I never thought about as we were doing it is the full history of Destiny basically in the public eye. You can go back to any episode and know what was going on in the community and where it was. And Deej said they basically use Guardian Radio as the roadmap. Like, okay, we're going to do this. So like when they start talking about House of Wolves, you hear my voice saying like, here we are, guys. We have the announcement date for House of Wolves. It comes out March 13th or whatever it is. And like, that was so cool to go back and see that. And they even played that at E3. Like if you're waiting in line to play, I guess at the time was Taken King, at E3, that video was playing. So like that right there, I was like, that I'm done. Like what else do I do? Dude, and the other thing, just as a podcaster, that completely blew me away. And this was even early on. This was the week Destiny came out. Actually, it was like 2 or 3 weeks after that. The original Destiny was, we were literally the #1 gaming podcast on iTunes.
Wow.
That right there. I mean, that was it. Apple reached out to us. They put us up on the front page of just podcasts on iTunes. So it was like a big Guardian Radio logo, and then like Bill Maher's Real Time, and like, I mean, Serial wasn't out at the time, but it was a big podcast like Serial sitting there. And I was like, that's it. I'm done. I'm retiring from podcasting. I'm above Giant Bomb. I'm above IGN. Like, what do I need to do now? That's it. And so that's still amazing. I still have a screenshot of that, man. That was one of the coolest things I think of all time. That said
Talk that talk.
I don't want to gush about that, but that really was kind of it. You know, the funny thing is, here I'm talking about my wife. I show my wife, and she's like, "Oh, that's cool." Yeah. You don't understand. You're like, do you not know what this means? Are you not entertained? Like,
there you go.
That's awesome.
Oh no, that's amazing though. No, but it's been an awesome journey the whole way through. But watching you guys and just being a fan like the entire time throughout, it's like it's well deserved. You guys always have had like, I mean, you're the host who just like takes that thing week after week, and you've been through like almost a complete change of people that you've had on that thing.
We have. I mean, you go back to the original cast, nobody is there.
Twice almost. Because you had the 2 guys first.
Well, it was me, Derek, and Watts. And then Craig came on like 6 episodes later, and then none of them are there anymore, man. You know, Bell came in. Well, I guess Bife came in, and then Bell came in, and then K-Dub, and then Sean. And now we just got the three hosts.
Yeah.
So it's wild.
Right. Yeah. So I was like, well,
let's move on here. Yeah, I don't want to say.
I was like, no. Like that's literally what happens on this. We'll be like, oh, let's talk about this. 20-minute tangents happen, and that's the whole point. So we wanted to get you on, man, and that's the awesome stuff to hear. So no, you're all good. That's why I asked you about if we had a time limit, because we usually don't. We call this thing Flashpoint. Usually turns into Long Point.
Long Point.
Yeah. So heads up, guys. Season 4, so pretty much the first season of Forsaken, is going to end November 27th. So it's not that far away. So a couple questions for you guys. One, because I was actually talking to Cognito about this last week. So the Luna's Howl figurine that you can actually get the Triumph for stops on December 5th. That's like a Wednesday. This will be the 27th when the season actually ends. So do you think this is going to be end of season 4? You have the week buffer, and do you think Black Armor is going to come out like December 4th?
I think so, yeah.
So, yeah.
Yep. I think did they do this before, like between seasons, it kind of like ends, and then we have that week?
Yes.
They did that for Forsaken. They did patch 2.0 and for a week buffer. And then, 2.0.1 was Forsaken. So feels like, we kind of have a date, but nobody's really said it yet. So if you're grinding for anything that's season 4 specific, figurines or otherwise, they did say and kind of clarify, if you are going for, say, Luna's Howl, and you have to get your rank up in Crucible to your glory rank of 2000 or 2100 or whatever it is, when that new season starts, that rank resets. So if you got to grind it out, do it now. Don't wait till, that last 2 hours of Festival Lost and miss your chance when the time changes type situation. But we have Iron Banner coming back. How are you guys feeling about Iron Banner at this point? Are you excited? Is it kind of just there? Does it do much for you? What do you guys think?
You know how I feel. I mean, for me, it's just like, I'm really enjoying it. And we talked about this before as far as Crucible meta. And look, Destiny has had its metas. We've had the Reign of the Thorn. We've had some ones. Prior, Vanilla was like, once Vanilla D2, like once the first exotic tuning happened, then it became like, month of the Graviton and the Vigilance. So we've had metas where I feel there's always been one or two dominant guns. But this is the first one. Again, it's not perfect. I'm not saying it's flawless. We all talk scouts need some love. There's a couple of weapon types that definitely need some love. But for the most part, it's refreshing to kind of get killed by different weapons. And I'm like, oh wow, like this is cool. Oh, this guy's got Luna. Okay, Luna's dominant, but I've seen some trusts in there. I see, Claws the Wolf. We all know Go Figure. So pulses are really doing strong. We know shotguns are back. The Dust Rock and all that good stuff. People slide shotting with Badlands and what's the other one? Mindbender, all that good stuff.
Mindbender's Ambition. Oh, yeah, I actually just got my curated version of that.
Yeah. Oh, wow. That's serious. That's serious. Yeah, man. So it's like, just to see that. And I'm still holding my own. I got my Escalation Protocol shotgun. I'm able to hold my own with my Paradox or whatever. But it's really refreshing for me, especially. I think what it is more the combination of the meta has a little bit more variety and the fact that sixes are back. And I love Banner's control format. Like, I love the locking down of the 3-point. Because it really generates comeback opportunity for me. And you can be real strategic. Because before, triple cap kind of, flip the spawn. It's like, okay, so what? But now with Banner, and then, you hear Saladin talk his talk, and the wolves start howling, and he's telling you to go kill them. Like, it gets me hyped. So I'm loving it. This will be my final Banner. I think for me, it's just going to be personally getting some specific armor sets that have the perks that go to my playstyle. I'll finish out. I mean, character's pretty much 600, so I really don't need the powerful gear. But I've been having a real good time with Banner recently.
Yeah, I mean, for me, Banner's never really been something that I necessarily go after all the time. I think in Destiny 1, I was probably even more apt to play Banner than I am now. With Destiny 2, it's just kind of, I don't know what it is. And maybe it's even just PvP in general. Like I'll dabble in for a game or two just to do my bounties, and then that's kind of it. Like I don't really jump too much into it, but that's just the player that I am. It's not that there's anything necessarily wrong with PvP. But then bringing it back to sixes, I think has made it much better. I mean, that to me was always a format that I liked a lot more. And the new Banner rules of, locking down those points, I think not only makes it good for the comebacks, but I think it also makes people to PTFO, play the objective that much more, right? I mean, in the end, when you do control, you have to play the objective regardless. Yeah. But it really makes it that much more intense. Of, hey, we all just can't be rotating to spot to spot to spot to spot. You do need to split up a little bit. And so, that's a tip for people is if you see you're running with 4 or 5 people, you might want to move and go to one of those other spots before, you know what I mean? It really, I think, makes it much more of an objective game mode, kind of like it was intended to be. But I mean, the gear continues to look awesome. But like I said, for me personally, I don't really dabble in Iron Banner that much.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
Yeah, I was like, I'm kind of probably somewhere between you guys. I do some PvP, but not as much, nearly as Cognito. But for me, as usual, for my whole YouTube stuff, is like it's typically PvE things. So like Iron Banner was nice, as they said. Like they keep cranking out you got just the look of these things are amazing. The color schemes definitely make them unique. That's always fun. I like the add of the powerful gear, even though, as you said, you're at 600. It's like that definitely takes away from, do I even know I really want to spend time for the bounties? Maybe a couple, but it doesn't do that much. But generally, I think the control part is cool. I just wish they would, take something else and do a spin. Like everything has only been control. I want to see something else in Iron Banner at some point. So maybe it'd be a good way for them to introduce a new mode or something. I can't wait because as you said, play the objective, and that's where some of the PvP gets really fun. If there's actually a purpose behind it to drive people to not just shoot each other or play the specific like meta or anything. It's like if I got to go run an objective, I might play a different. I might play Code of the Missile, so I can't really slam that point as opposed to just going hammers to hit him from far away. So it'll mix it up a little bit. So it is nice, but just would be good to see a little more variety in the playstyle. Go ahead.
Can I confess something with my PvP? I still always rock the Vigilance Wing in my
it's funny you said that. I just got the Catalyst, not to cut you, and it's still viable.
It's totally viable, bro. Like every time I use it, people are like, "Oh, you're using that." It's like easy mode. It's like, well, yeah, but it works. It still works. Like I'm using it, and that's when I was talking earlier about like give me a reason to put my weapons down. That's one weapon that it just works for me in PvP. And so like sometimes, it is fun to switch it, and I hope the scout rifle meta does come back, because I always use my Mida. I mean, that's the thing. I always use my Mida in year one, or in Destiny 1, just because that became my go-to weapon. It worked, and I loved using it. Now it's the Vigilance. It's pulse rifles right now for me. I mean, it's just where it's at.
I agree. Completely agree.
Yeah, mine's a go figure, and it's a laser beam, and I love it. It's got Outlaw, Rampage, full range masterwork. The first one I actually spent the cores on, and the long distance scope. So it's almost like 96 range. So it's a beast. I love that thing.
I use my go figure in Gambit a lot. That's where I use that.
Absolutely. So Iron Banner is going to be next week, so it'll be good that actually didn't throw. That was the last time Iron Banner came up. Everything was going on at the same time. I'm like, like too much. It was Festival, Iron Banner, Shattered Throne week. All that stuff was going on at the same time. So now it'll be like a really down, tame week. So if I do want to dabble, I won't feel like I'm missing as much, which will be nice, because last time it was too much stuff. But yeah, they did say triumphs are resetting. So keep that in mind. If you need to grind something out, every rank resets on the 27th. So definitely get your grind out for those if you guys need to. Shout out to some artists, but just any of the, by the way, the art from the Destiny community, just I keep seeing it pop up on Twitter all the time.
Amazing.
There's so many things that come through, whether it's like the charcoal drawings or just the pencil sketches of weapons or this right here. The art is always so cool. So yeah, there's some on Twitter. Just go look up like Bungie or Destiny artist, and they'll just be like people who just love drawing art. They're amazing. So go check some of those out. They're really cool. Another one right here.
Yes, sir.
Other than that, they had a quick hot fix out there. The refer friend and stuff is going on. So if you need to know any of the main issues going on with Forsaken, they have their list here. Basics of, weekly raid bounties that weren't completely going through their rotation. Just little glitches, stuff like that. Just check them out. They've definitely got some stuff on works. I'm not going to read them verbatim to you guys. That's for other people, not so much us.
Are you guys, real quick, trying to hook up with someone to do the refer a friend just to get the items?
Yeah.
I would like to, because that actual shader looks amazing because it moves.
Yes, I like that. Like Shimmer's cool.
Yes.
Yeah, that one looks cool. The ship, like, I wish they would have done like a unique ship for it, because it still looks like a normal one, but with the shader on it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, just overall, those are cool. I actually kind of thought about, just seeing about doing a giveaway, and just literally part of the giveaway is like, I'm going to run through it with you just to do that kind of thing for fun, just to bring somebody new to the table. So I don't know. Could be one of those fun ones, but yeah, they said they're excited for Destiny 2's Season of the Forge coming up quick, which I'm sure we all know when that's going to come. Season 4 ends on the 27th, so that's pretty much a wrap on that. So that's the general rundown of the TWAB for you guys. So nothing too crazy, but we are not that far away. I was honestly hoping we get the Black Army launch trailer, because
I know, me too, man.
I was literally like, come on, Mark's going to be here, perfect timing. It's going to be literally on Tuesday. I'm sure it's literally next week. I wanted to ask you too, do you guys ever feel like, because you record on Monday, and like you're usually, because we tried to time this because it worked out for TWAB and timing and everything like that, and it just works because it's the day after the TWAB. But you guys going on Monday, you're like, you got a few days, and usually everything drops Tuesday, Wednesday, and you're like, I gotta wait a week to talk about this. Does that ever get you sometimes?
Well, it used to. I'm trying to think. We used to do the show either Tuesdays or Wednesdays, and there was a legitimate reason why we moved to Mondays. I couldn't even tell you what that reason was. And then the time we recorded the show was always because Bife was on in England, and so it was it was the right time. But now we can't really move to Tuesdays because Sean is always streaming the reset basically on Tuesdays. We probably could move to another night. We just haven't really honestly talked about it. And in the end, I mean, it's just like, we've been doing the show for so long. It's kind of that Monday staple. It's like, let's do it on Monday. And it does suck. I mean, I'll be honest, we do get emails from people saying like, why do you guys do the show on Mondays, or they listen to it on Tuesdays? And at that point, it's like, it's already old news. Like the reset's already happened, but we've just been doing it for so long, man, that it's just...
Well, I actually kind of like Monday because I don't know of a lot that launches on Monday, so it's actually my first thing of the week. So
cool.
I appreciate you staying there. Hold strong. But we've got
some things to talk about.
So big news dropped yesterday, and Activision talking about Destiny 2 in their earnings call. Basically, what they're kind of saying is Destiny 2 is underperforming, and me in my head, I'm kind of going, okay. And now I know their business. I know they have all their things. They have stockholders, all that type of, those are all pieces and factored into this. But so the idea is, if it's underperforming, where is this going to go? So before we dive too far into any details, things like that, just from what you guys have read, your thoughts so far, Mark, I'll leave it to you first. What do you think on this? Just like this whole feeling of what this could do for the future.
Well, I mean, first, just kind of looking at, is it underperforming? I mean, obviously, financially, to what their numbers were, what their goals were, I guess it is, right? It is underperforming. And one of the things early on, this was probably 2 or 3 weeks after Forsaken launched. I remember talking about this on Guardian Radio. I went in and looked at the trophies for Forsaken. And if you look at the trophies on PlayStation, and again, this isn't a number that anybody can take for fact across the other 2 platforms as well. But the way it works for the trophies on PlayStation is you have Destiny 2. So you have all the trophies there that takes into account every single person that has owned or owns Destiny 2. And then beneath that is Forsaken as the DLC. Then within that, you have your trophies. So when you look at those Forsaken trophies, it's not necessarily people that own Forsaken, it's people that own Destiny 2 have got this trophy. Currently, right now, 10.2% of people have made it to the Dreaming City. Wow. At that point, you could assume that everybody that owns Destiny 2, only 10.2 of those people have made it to the Dreaming City. Now, then you can also say, all right, well, does that mean every person that bought Forsaken made it to the Dreaming City? I'd say probably not, but probably like 80% of those people, 70%, because most people are at least going to play the campaign. You play the campaign of Forsaken, you make it to the Dreaming City. So only then, if we just take that number at its face value, only 10% of people that bought Destiny 2, or I mean, hell, we could even say got it for free now. But this number, when we were talking about it 2 or 3 weeks after Forsaken, that number was like 5%. So the number's actually gone up. But only 10% of people bought it. So like, was that, when they're looking at it's underperforming, it's like, how many copies of Destiny 2 on PlayStation did they sell? And only 10% of those people they were able to retain for the expansion. That is kind of a low number, right? I mean, in the end, when you step back and look at that, sure, the hardcore community, us, we love this expansion. I mean, this is Destiny 2 is in the best space it's ever been. And I mean, hell, Destiny is almost in the best space it's ever been in with Forsaken, but they're kind of right with that number, man. And I would attribute it to just the reception that the original Destiny 2 got, and then all the stories and all the publicity, bad publicity you saw around it just shied people away. It sucks, man.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Man, I got a lot to talk about this one, man.
Well, this is our other topic. Like, where are we gonna?
This could be a big topic. I think we're gonna be on this for a while.
You guys strap in, get ready. Here we go.
I mean, listen. At the end of the day, when the news broke and I saw this, and shout out Jay Schreier and those guys from Kotaku, and I was reading it, and I'm like, it's interesting because, like you said, like as a hardcore Destiny fan, you're happy right now. Like Destiny's in the best place it's probably ever been. We've had this discussion, Ebontis, where we ranked it and we said, could this be the greatest expansion? And we had like a vote, right? We were like, this surpassed Taken King. You know, we talk about it as a whole. And is it perfect? No, I mean, but it's damn good. So, you know, obviously the news breaks and you hear this, and you know, to me, it's never a good sign when the COO you know, the publisher is talking about, you know, announcing that, hey, this is not what we expected, that this is underperforming. That's not a good sign. And you know, obviously I agree completely from the standpoint that Destiny 2, I believe the launch of vanilla Destiny 2 had a honeymoon phase. You know, they kind of casualized the game. They've alienated the hardcore at that point. You know, once the casuals kick, because I remember the sales were initially strong. I remember when sales are very strong. I remember the MPDs we had. Shout out to Matt Piscatella from the MPD group. We've had him on our podcast before. You know, I remember that September. It did well, and it was a strong honeymoon phase. But as the layers peeled back, and then you realized about the end game, and you realized about how everything was so easy to get. And the casual guys, once they're done, they're done. You know, they're not coming back. So what was left was the hardcore, who have now become disgruntled. And now they're like, you know, F this game, I'm not playing it anymore. And, you know, they completely this. And, you know, back then it was fours, the sandbox was slow. You know, they were giving out in-game content like it was candy. People were pissed. So I get it. And I think what really did the damage, is that the trust was broken, because it's like, oh, no, not again, after D1 had a rough vanilla launch. And then it got Taken King period. So it's like, there's no way you guys could make the same mistake again. That was kind of like, you know, the feel. So then Curse of Osiris drops.
that was probably like the nail in the coffin.
Well, you think, dude, it was Curse of Osiris, but it was also coupled in with the XP throttling, right? Wasn't that it was like that same time. It was all right there in December, and everybody was just like, oh my God. And this was hot off the heels of the Star Wars Battlefront Loot Crate issues. And it was just this perfect storm of everything coming together, and it was like gamers just hating on, somewhat rightfully so. Definitely. I mean, the way they vocalize it was a little, to me, I would say was not the proper way to do that, but still, yeah. And I think that scar is evident in Forsaken sales.
Absolutely.
Sure.
Like you said, you get to that, you fast forward, Warmind, you know, okay story, okay, solid end games, on the right track of improving and whatever. But ultimately, when I see the statements and he's like, hey, you know, this is not performing. We've not seen the full core re-engage in Destiny. And he's saying that he said, you know, a lot of people are in the wait and see. And I know for a fact, I have friends, you know, again, this is my sort of small circle that were hardcore D1 guys. And they feel scarred. Even when Forsaken came out, I'm like, dude, it's good. This is the time. A lot, I would say about 60 to 70% of them came back, was like, okay, no, I see what you're saying, Cognito. It is good. This is, you know, random rolls are back. Sixes, everything I like is back. Cool. But there was, I would say, about a 40% base of mine that were hardcore D1 that were like, nah, man, I can't trust it. So it's like that you know, that abusive relationship. People are like, I can't come back. So, you know, it is that. So ultimately, you know, fast forward to the last one I'm going to say, which is, you know, where we are now. And obviously, you know, the game is in a good place. The gameplay is in a good place. But when I hear statements like we're looking at ways we can monetize, you know, when I hear those kind of statements, those are red flags to me. I'll be honest. And I don't like the vibe because now, you know, we just went through Festival of Lost, which was not Festival of the Cost. And it was well renowned. And the Eververse is in the best place ever. You can literally get everything by gameplay and earning, you know, for the most part, right? Except the Iron Banner remote for $10.
Which I bought.
Just the one.
Which I bought too, because I'm Lord Cognito. I gotta buy it.
you have to buy it. That's right.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it's just like, you know, for the most part, this thing is really in a good place. And when I hear the publisher say that and say they're not happy, one, a little worried for Bungie, not gonna lie, a little worried with their control of the IP long term. Two, does this now pressure them into forcing microtransactions back into the game? You know, three, they've built so much of a goodwill with Forsaken, with the updates, the TWABs have been great, the feedback, the interactivity has been great. You know, what happens now? Does this I just feel for them because they're in such a tough spot. They fought so hard to get Bungie fought so hard to get the community back. But then you got Daddy Activision saying, hey, we're not happy with it. So it's tough, man. I need you on this, man. I am really in a mess with this whole situation emotionally.
No, that's why I was like, I was going to say, for a topic to explode, we got one of the guys who's been with the longest as well. So we're in a good group to talk about this. No, for me, I was sitting there reading it, and I mean, same boat you guys are in. It's like, we've seen Destiny go through this wave. It's like year one. It's like, then we had like the content drought of forever that we went through. We had Taken King do its little patch and be like, okay, that was cool. Rise of Iron wasn't quite as big, and we were waiting for D2. D2 launches, and this is that debate that we have, and that's why I say, like, January was that turning point where somebody was like, hey, do what you can. Somebody, I don't know who, where, said, do what you can to try and fix this game. Talk to your community. Be more open. Patch it faster. Do whatever you absolutely have to do. And that is when we saw this, like, complete, like, turn the ship moment when they started doing monthly patches for Destiny 2. And we talk about those all the time. Everything that was coming, the calendars that we've seen. We'd never have had stuff like that before.
No.
On top of, like, what we get in Forsaken is this, I mean, we get a whole entire world for in-game. We get a raid that had one of the longest, like, ever completions. And just this ongoing, like, Festival of Lost, the way that came through, the way they've handled microtransactions, like, not overbearing, giving you more options. So many things have been going well. To see this thing turn and say, hey, it's underperforming. It's like, it's one of those things that's like, if you were a salesperson in a job, it's like, okay, oh, you hit your goal? Well, let's just move that goal up because, you know, you didn't, now this is a new goal. And it's like, well, what the hell's the point in a goal if I can't ever hit the target? If it's moving, it's like, I know that, like, Curse of Osiris was that point, and one of my friends is a really, really good example. He and I have played this for so long, and he's the one that I would always play with. Like, we had a group in D1 and Vanilla. They fell off, and I played with him all the way through Curse of Osiris. He fell off after Curse of Osiris and didn't even buy Warmind. And for him to do that was the moment where you're like, Curse of Osiris burned, like, that final bridge that some people gave a moment for. And that's been that hard piece for them to really come back. Like, Forsaken is like, okay, people have seen it. It's there. They're doing the good things about making it free, PlayStation Plus, and they have that. Xbox, sorry, apparently maybe you'll get yours next. But all those little pieces have been these efforts to try and get people to see it, be like, hey, this is the best it's ever been. Come check it out. Like, it's still an amazing game. And I'm with you, Cognito. It's like, I'm worried that Activision is going to push something that is going to take away from all the good things that Bungie has really tried to do to make this a good, like, the grind is real, but I've seen people, hey, I finally got everything to 600, and it's like, it's real, but it feels about right. It doesn't feel too easy. It doesn't feel too hard. You can get there without doing the raid. If you raid, you'll get it quicker. Like, so many things they've done well. This worries me kind of to my soul about this game, because if Activision casualizes it all over again just to get people in, we're going to go right down that same road.
You mentioned earlier the community summit they did. When was that? March or April? And I was one of the people that got to go to that. And the reason they brought us all in was to try to figure out how to bring the hobby back to Destiny. And honestly, I think Forsaken has done that. It makes it where even if you are 600, there's always something to chase, be it go in your collections, find a weapon to grind for, or searching for those perfect perks to find, whatever. The hobby is back in Destiny. And yes, the grind can be real, but at least you have something that you're working towards. But the problem, I think, with this monetization, for me, when I step back and look at it, is it's like, all right, well, are they going to casualize it even more? Maybe, but I think right now so much has been being worked on with Destiny 3, which that's a whole other topic with the rumor mill and all that. That's been drumming on that. We're hearing much more RPG elements. That to me says that's not casualizing it. And at this point, I don't think they would ever go back and change really things to casualize whatever Destiny 3 is currently right now. Yeah. But I look at what happened over the last week at BlizzCon, and I see
oh my God.
Diablo Immortal. And there's a company that is also involved in that whole issue, and that's NetEase. Well, a few months ago, NetEase put $100 million into Bungie.
Yep.
So that makes me wonder how much of which so far, all we know about that is more investment into whatever maybe Bungie's next project is, which probably many of you have seen. It's that Matter. We had that logo, that trademark filing for Matter. But it wouldn't surprise me if Activision says, all right, well, Destiny is kind of underperforming. Why don't we find a way on the mobile side of things using NetEase to maybe pull in money, which personally for me, sure. If that means that they put something out that they can make money on that side that then gets funneled into more budget into my console or my PC version of Destiny 2 or Destiny, sure, I'm all for that. Because in the end, I don't need to play that game. The whales that will spend thousands on whatever that thing is will fund my enjoyment of my game that I pay $60 for. Sure, I'm in on that. However, I can definitely see the gaming community going crazy over something like that and not appreciating that, because in the end, that'll probably come out and you won't get a drop of Destiny 2 because they're working on that product, and it just becomes this whole mess. And it's almost like gaming development right now. It's almost like they're damned if they're doing, they're damned if they don't. Like there's you have your community you're constantly battling at, because at no time in the history of video games have developers ever been able to be in such direct contact with their community. I mean, yesterday I saw Warframe. They were getting ready to drop their new drop.
The Fortuna.
The head of development at Digital Extremes was just running a stream of him at his desk saying like, yeah, well, we're fixing this bug right now. It'll be a few more minutes before we drop Fortuna. Like when have we ever seen that? Like, could you imagine when an ET came out for the Atari and like that thing was a friggin' train wreck? Like there was no way to talk to those people. There was just like, you buy the game and say, man, this game is shit. And you either bring it back to the store or you never play it again. Like that's all we had. Now we live in this age where you can just contact these developers. So it's like, we can tell the developers we're not happy with this. We need you to change that. And like you said, you guys said like, sure, they've turned it around with the hardcore community, but now they have Big Daddy Activision breathing down their necks. And honestly, guys, I don't know what the happy medium here is. I don't know. Like, if anything, is it maybe they spent too much money on advertising? Are we at the point now where Destiny can just be the word of mouth? Cognito, you're saying you tell your buddies like, go buy Forsaken. It's the best it's ever been. Is that maybe just enough? I mean, companies now rely so much on content creators, almost more so than they do on the advertising. Maybe Activision should start to learn that and say, you know what, rather than pump $80 million into running ads on Monday Night Football, like, don't do that. Like,
I got a question.
Professor Broman and Gathalion and Matt Mesa Sean and all these people will sell your game. Ninja will sell your game more than that. All you got to do is give him a free copy of the game. He's going to play it for millions of people.
Let me.
What are you doing? Spending 80 million on commercials nowadays?
Let me jump in because you got my mind racing right now, and it's like,
I'm sorry.
No. This is
good things.
I get diarrhea of the mouth a lot, man. My mind goes
this
crazy.
is the entire. I told you it's long form. I was like, these happen. That's why we're here.
It's interesting because as I'm listening to you talk, and I'm sitting there, and I'm like, Ebontis, me and you've talked about this. Like, I do feel the strength of the franchises, even when it's at its lowest point, is the advertising. You see a Bungie trailer, even for Curse of Osiris, the moment we didn't know if it was gonna be good or not, right?
Yep.
But we saw Osiris, we saw Sagira, and just the cinematics, the theatrics of it. And I'm like, man, your mind starts racing. The grand thoughts start, going in your head about how good this thing could possibly be. So I think advertising and marketing is their strength. The question is, like you said, Mark, like, are they going to continue to pump that level of money in there when the results may not be there? And then I remember hearing Come Forsaken, quote me if I'm wrong, when they had the interviews with Game Informer had the exclusive kind of thing, I believe. No,
I was like 100 questions or whatever.
Yeah, and I recall them stating like, hey, we're peeling back on the budget as far as these big cinematic kind of campaigns and things of that nature. So I'm like, okay, good. Let's get back to the hardcore. Let's get back to the chase, the loot grind. I like it, but I guess I'm gonna put my conspiracy hat on and ask you guys a question. My guess is when the COO on an earnings call says, this is not performing and we need to do X, Y, and Z to try to monetize, right? The way I look at it is Daddy has said he's not happy and, son Bungie, you're in trouble, right? Not in all the way, you're going to get fired, but we're watching. We have to do things to improve. So it's like when your boss is in the room over your desk while you're working. It's not comfortable, right? So at the end of the day, like, now do we think, because we know they have High Moon Studios, right? We know, what is it, Vicarious, Ebontis?
Vicarious Vision.
They're on the side. And, as I've had Richard Hogue, a gaming lawyer, on, he's been on Online Podcast before, he understands gaming contract, and we've all agreed that Destiny's contract, Bungie with them, is kind of one of the weirdest in gaming, like this 10-year thing and then the exclusive thing, but that's another story. But the point of the matter is, do you think if there's this continual quote-unquote underperformance, that Bungie at some point may say, hey, or they may lose the IP, or we hear this Matter thing, we hear about Matter, right? And this other game, whatever they're supposed to be making, do Bungie get to a point where they say, hey, we can't live up to this thing, we're in this like slave contract?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, man, I don't think it's that they ever say, oh, we can't live up to the slave contract. I think it's just that's almost set in stone in their minds. It's like they did the same thing with Halo. It was like we did Halo, pumped it out, get rid of the IP, and we just move on to something else. I mean, for a studio to be working on a game indefinitely or game franchise is crazy. Mm-hmm. Sure, Bungie today is not the same Bungie that was there when they made Halo. I mean, hell, half the people aren't even there anymore. But still, I think, exactly what you're saying. I think this fall we're going to get another expansion. I don't think it's going to be Destiny 3. I think the year after that we'll get our Destiny 3, maybe another year or two of expansions, and then Bungie moves on, and you have Vicarious or High Moon move in, and they're the ones that are going to take over, just like we have 343 doing Halo right now. Even though Microsoft, that was a startup company, but I think they're just going to put it over, kind of like Activision does with Call of Duty. They have their studios.
Yeah, like I'm. You know what I'm thinking? I'm literally thinking of how Respawn Entertainment started. Remember when they had COD, and then they got disgruntled, whatever the situation was, and then they left or what have you, and it would break my heart if Bungie's not on this game.
Get ready for your heart to be broken, because I guarantee you in 5 years Bungie will not be developing Destiny at that point.
Yeah, when that contract's up, they're like, oh my god,
you're going to move on to their next thing. Yeah. I mean, which I would wonder, is it going to be then? I mean, a lot of games are moving this direction in general, the games as a service, but is it going to be something like this, like a PvE style type game where they do this online game, or will they just say, man, those last 10 or 12 years were just stressful, like we're just going to make just just some sort of story driven game or whatever it is? That would be crazy.
It's like, all right, guys, take a month vacation. We're going to put out Flappy Bird 2, and then you guys take a month off and catch it.
So, what do you think, E? I need you on this, man.
I don't know. I'm trying to like let you guys do the I'm not trying to interrupt. You guys got your things going, so no, it's good stuff.
Encouragement right now from you.
No, it's like, I mean, Bungie is so
heartbroken.
I was like, I think, heartbroken, literally snapped in two. I can't feel my heart. I mean, Bungie has put their lives into this thing. I mean, you see the passion that they have for this game. So, I mean, that bleeds over into those other studios. It's like, and they've started to make this something that I think they truly have turned the ship and they can be proud of again. If they can try and keep Activision at a balance of trying to find a way of, as you said, like, I think you're right. I think it's like, it's going to be big expansion 2. And then it's going to be Destiny 3. They've already said Destiny 3 is in the work. If they go more hardcore RPG, that stuff I'm hoping for, because coming from World of Warcraft, that is literally preaching to the choir. So those are all things that for me are good. But yeah, it's all the Activision piece. But I think, as you said, it's like if you have somebody like NetEase come in and if they make like a mobile Destiny thing, that's the point where people will freak out and be like, why are you making this mobile? It's exactly what happens. Like Diablo 4 is in development. They can't officially say it for whatever reason, but it's there. So like the same thing, if that's the way they monetize it some ways. And for example, so far they've always like talked about the slippery slope and stuff like that. I've heard that on so many of everybody when they talked about Eververse, and it never has crossed that line yet. And as long as they don't, and if they find some other creative ways to do it, if they do this thing where, hey, here's I don't remember what the thing is where you can buy the emotes for money. I forget the name. The new thing they just did this week, like that type of stuff. Like if you want to spend a little more, here's these things. Like, and it's a way where it still doesn't affect the game. I think they can try and preserve it. But yeah, for the long term, I mean, there's a point where those guys, if you saw, like, I mean, just some of those guys, it's like, I wonder, you see Obama before and after his presidency, it's like the gray hairs are going to be coming out if this contract holds through. And what they have to put there, like they have, I mean, you hear about things like Rockstar, like you hear about the 100 hours, and it's not everybody, but you know, there's conflicting stories and things like that. But some of those guys are so passionate they want to, but they can't sustain that. Even if like the Luke Smiths, even if the Christopher Barretts, if they love it so much, they put it into it. At some point, just like, I mean, you're a family man. It's like life comes calling back and be like, hey, you've got to go live outside of work at some point. And I think you're saying it's like, maybe this is, hey, it's like, I'm here for the 10 years. Are you with us as much as you can be? When that time comes, and if they can, like, if that contract's like renegotiated, that's that game-changing moment. And I think you are right, where Bungie they're an amazing company, but it's like they might be like, it's time for us to go venture into something else. And hopefully their passion may have bled over into Vicarious, High Moon, and things like that.
Yeah.
I got one last point before I'll let you go. I got one last point. I'll let you finish. Oh, you good? Okay.
No, yeah, you said, you go ahead.
No, I was just saying, because it's so strange to me when I hear the financial things, because again, you know, we just heard, like, it was like, it's the third best selling game of 2018. Like, it's the third best, right? It in the month of when Spider-Man launched in MPD,
September,
Destiny 2 won. Forsaken, it won digital sales. It was the most sell game. So if I'm looking at Activision, they're saying this is a failure, right?
Well, you know, that number, everybody keeps throwing that number around. I think there's definitely something a little bit more at play with that number, because does that number include, number one, the other two platforms Forsaken was on, as well as, to me, I mean, I bought Spider-Man digitally, but I think Spider-Man to me kind of appeals more to the people that maybe bought a PlayStation because of Star Wars Battlefront, the first one. That was just the guy who, because I'm a pharmacist, I work for a big box store, so I deal with a lot of these people that kind of come in and like, they're just the random dudes that are like, oh, hey, there's that PlayStation. Oh, look, there's a Spider-Man game for it. And they just buy that copy. You know, that was all digital sales. I think us hardcore gamers are just buying digital games as it is now. But I think Spider-Man, a lot of those sales were physical. I think just because people are at the store, they see Spider-Man, they just want to buy that physical copy. Where Forsaken, there was no, I mean, sure, there was a quote unquote physical copy, but come on, if you were a Destiny player, nobody was buying that physical copy, right? Of course, they're going to sell way more, because really it's just an expansion, you know, it's not a physical copy. But yeah, I agree. I think basically what you're saying is like, how we hear all these just quotes on how great it sold in September. And then here we have Activision coming out saying it underperformed. It's just this big conflict of like, what are you talking about? Destiny is in the best space it's ever been in. We're hearing that it led in September and all these digital sales and all this stuff. And yet you're coming out saying it was a disappointment. It just doesn't add up. Let me ask you guys this.
Go for it.
Or go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No. All I was going to say,
throw a question your way, absolutely.
In the sense that with the whole, and then you in conjunction, which leads to Activision point, is then now they're offering free weekends. We're getting a lot of free stuff lately, if you notice.
Oh yeah.
So I mean, usually when that happens, that's generally not a good sign. But go to your question. I really do want.
Here's my question, and part of this is because I have two kids who are completely obsessed with Fortnite. And I live in which is terrible for me being a guy who hosted a podcast called Paragon Radio that was canned by Epic because of friggin' Fortnite. So it's literally salt in the wound every day on the way to school is all they do is talk about Fortnite. But how would you guys feel if Destiny, and I don't want to say necessarily went free to play, but what if they do a monthly fee and they start adding more content a la like a World of Warcraft? So Destiny 3, let's say they wait till Destiny 3. So here they're talking about new ways to monetize it. How would you guys feel about that? As if it just becomes this either a free to play or it is just a buy your one-time shot like you do in WoW with the new expansions or the releases, and then you pay your $10 to $15 a month and you are promised continual content of not only weapons to chase, new quests spawning in, all of that. Where would you guys sit on that realm? Because that's a simple way to monetize it, right? It's a way to say, hey, we have a hardcore base. They're going to pay $10 a month. It's $120 a year. We'll cut them $100 for a year. You got them locked in.
Oh, I'm gonna let Marcus grab this because I know what I'm saying.
So for me, coming from World of Warcraft, that actually honestly sounds like something I would absolutely support. Just because I've been through that model before and I've seen what World of Warcraft is capable of. Now, I mean, Activision Blizzard is one giant umbrella. So, I mean, they can actually talk and they've actually got somebody who's going through this whole thing because they've been doing it for a while. And, oh, World of Warcraft is still going after 14 years. Like, the money they've made from that subscription model has been good. Now, to be able to pull that off, they have to have the biggest launch of D3 that they have ever put out in their entire lives to be able to swing a subscription model. Now, they can sell it because if they can keep this going, if next September is awesome and they keep that hype going, D3 has a chance to do something like that. But I would do it in a heartbeat because you would end up basically paying the same. And what'd you do? $60 expansion, $40 annual pass. It's just literally broken up over the months. And then, you know, if you do more outfits and things like that, just more cosmetics. I mean, as long as they never cross that gameplay line, like those are those pieces to where maybe it helps. But yeah, I would do the subscription in a heartbeat.
Right now,
because I've played, I don't know, 2, 3, 4,000. I don't know how many hours I'm at this point. I know it was over 2,000 on D1. I lost track since Forsaken, since this is like all I do. So yeah, like that many hours to me, it's like it feels justified because I like supporting something that I'm behind. Now, other people are like, oh, Fortnite's free and technically I can play it without spending a cent. Now, as you said, it's the whales in any free-to-play game that make a difference. But overall, it's just the mentality of this is going to be that living world. And to me, it'd be something I'd have to support.
See, that's a great point, man. And I'm sorry to cut you off, Cognito, but like when it comes to the free-to-play game, and this was even me with Paragon, it was like, I'm playing a free-to-play game. I don't mind spending $10 on that skin for this character because, hell, I'm getting tons of enjoyment out of this free game. Sure, I'll throw you $10. And I almost wonder if Bungie, I mean, honestly, man, I think it would be a whole cluster F if they ever tried to do anything like it. It would just be a mess. But realistically, I think if people step back and actually looked at it and said, hey, you know, that may be the way to go. Because right now, like, what is it? Elder Scrolls Online, they do it great. I think the way they do it. Now, they do have some free-to-play stuff in their store, but if you pay, I think it's $10 or $15 a month, you get not only every expansion or anything that come out, which some of them are paid. Now, they do have their bigger expansions that you still need to pay for. But every month, that $15 that you spend also gives you $15 of in-game currency. So basically, it's just patterning or giving the Bethesda game studios or online studios, whatever it is, that guaranteed money coming in every month. So just imagine like you spend $10 on Destiny, you're guaranteed to then have $10 worth of silver to spend in the game every month. So when that Iron Lord emote comes out, you just buy it. You're not actually spending money on it because you've already spent the money to play the game. Like you get that in the game. So it's almost as if they're saying, hey, give us $10 a month to buy something in our cash shop, plus you just get all that with it. So for me personally, and again, that's maybe because as an adult who works and has the money, I have that income. But like you even said, Abantis, when you spread it all out, it's almost the same. It's just, I think it's more just the fact of handing Bungie every month that $10, or what has always been my issue with World of Warcraft or any MMO is I feel like I have to play the game.
Right.
You know, I'm spending that $15 anytime I go and play. Like, let's say if I was spending it on World of Warcraft and I go play Destiny, it's like, man, that's 2 or 3 days I missed out on paying or playing the game that I paid to play.
Right.
So I think that's kind of the issue that people have with it, as opposed to the spending the money, because in the end, you kind of end up spending the same regardless.
Let me jump in. Man.
I don't know.
I gotta be chomping a bit with this one. Oh, listen, man, I love y'all, but they will throw that in the bushes. Console gamers, you know how, just off the simple fact that we're so antiquated that, let's be real, like we're still paying $60 for games, right?
No, you're right.
By the way, broken. I mean, that's a sorry, not to cut you off, but that's like that price point is so, and like N64 games are more than that.
Right. So
and then we've gone down somehow. Go ahead, sorry.
Let me put on my Lord Shill hat right now, because I'm a shill for Activision. At the end of the day, like it's not sustainable. I'm gonna say it's completely unsustainable, but at the same time, like the way it's structured, there's going to be some form of monetization. There's going to be some form, whether it be DLC, the model. We can all talk about that. And I think you guys are right. Yes, long term, it ends up working out the same when you get the expansion and season pass and all that other stuff. But to a casual gamer to go to the store and say, okay, boom, and then now you're going to have this subscription fee. And correct me if I'm wrong, chat. I think Sonaldo's in the chat. I believe ESO didn't try. ESO tried it on PC, I believe, before it came to
when it launched on PC, which I was one of those people. You had to pay. It did have a 15-month fee, right. And dude, all I did when you bought the game, you got that first month free. I fell off after that very first month because I was like, you know what, I don't want to. There, Destiny was out or coming out soon after that point. I was like, you know what, I just don't want to spend that $15. Exactly. But when it jumped to consoles, I've spent more money on the console than I did on the PC, because at that point, hey, it's free to play. I like this mount. Dude, I spent $20 on a horse mount. What the hell is that? Just because it was like, you know what? It's free to play. Screw it. I'll buy this horse. It's cool.
I feel you. You know? It's all perception. It's all optics, right? Because a gamer, a casual gamer, you tell him, hey, game is $60 or whatever. Okay, cool. You know what I'm saying? Then the DLC is coming out, whatever. I think it's an easier sell to a casual than to say, hey, you can't play this, or there's this barrier of entry with subscription. See, us as the hardcore, we love this game. We don't care. We're gonna be there day one.
Exactly.
We are getting that bad boy, right? We're gonna play this thing and we're gonna have enjoyment and have that steady stream of content. And I get it. I think where I struggle is, as much as I'm on Bungie's side, right? We do have to admit, because of D2's initial reception, the honeymoon phase, and they definitely took a hit financially. We must know that. Then I remember, since that point of September of last year, Destiny wasn't in top 10 NPDs. And that was always a concern for me. And if I'm an Xbox player, like how you looking at the trophies, Mark, I'm looking at Xbox has games most played, right? Yeah. And there's a top 20. And during Destiny 1 in its heyday, Destiny 1 would even in the worst times of Destiny, let's say before Taken King, that drought before Taken King, right? I remember Destiny would still be in the top 10, maybe wouldn't fall out far from the 5, 6. People would still play. But now, fast forward to D2, you've got the Fortnites. You know, you got.
That's, I don't want to cut you off, but I mean, in the end, somebody put in the chat, who is that? This is over on YouTube, Snyaldo, or
yeah.
Who is that? Somebody over there. Slow-mo backslap. Yeah. He put mentioning Black Ops. And like, can we just maybe mention the elephant in the room? And I mentioned it earlier. How much is Fortnite just affecting the gaming industry as a whole?
Oh, yeah.
For better or for worse. I mean, my kids, dude, it's been over a year now. They've been playing Fortnite. That's all my son wants to do. Like last year, Call of Duty World War II was our first Call of Duty. I bought it, and so both him and I could play. We have 2 PlayStations. We're playing on it. Had a blast, but didn't play it a ton because he was playing Fortnite more. This year, all excited for Black Ops. Dad, we gonna get Black Ops? Sure, man. We'll get Black Ops. We'll play it and play together.
Talk to me.
We've played it like 2 or 3 times.
Yeah.
Because other than that, all he wants to do is play Fortnite.
Fortnite. It's you said that, and let's again rewind. Back then, Destiny was kind of the new kid on the block in that genre. There wasn't that fierce level of competition. Fortnite is changing the game. It's changing. We have NFL download. You can get your Panthers on right now.
It comes out. Oh, dude, I already know. It comes out at 7 tonight, and my son at 7 o'clock is going to be logging on to get his damn Panthers uniform.
Yeah, that NFL is going to be nuts.
It's happening tonight.
Deal NFL. Culturally, you've shifted. When you've got Sony as a conglomerate who's been staunch on, we are not doing crossplay, to make them bend the knee and say, all right, you know what, we gotta get back to the table. You know, so I think that's what's going on here. And shout out to what Slow-Mo said, you know, as far as like Activision's expectations, maybe their expectations are out of whack. I mean, we have Red Dead Redemption that just dropped as well. These are high quality games. all in this same space of third, fourth quarter competing with Destiny. We're not even talking about Anthem. We're not even.
Dude, I was just gonna say we haven't even brought up the other elephants in the room that's coming out in the spring.
Direct competitors coming.
And that's one thing I do want to say though. I think a lot of people are banking a lot on Anthem. I'm going to tell people right now, just hold your expectations.
Yep.
For a couple reasons. One, I do know some of the people who have played Anthem multiple times over the last few months as EA Game Changers or some other events in that. And the game currently where it is in a kind of a weird spot. I think part of it is EA doesn't even really know what they want that game to be still, but they're basically being forced to kind of get that thing out the gate because I think they just announced it way too early and whatever. But I think that game to me, and when I first saw it, I know Abantis, you and I played a little bit of Monster Hunter together. That to me is more what that game looks like. It looks like, hey, here's this really awesome BioWare RPG that has co-op in it. To me, I don't think Anthem is going to be a competitor to Destiny really at all, other than it's going to pull people over. People are going to go over, they're going to get pissed and say this isn't like Destiny, and they're going to leave it. Where in the end, it's really not meant to be like Destiny. It really is meant to be more of a BioWare RPG that has a co-op side on it. Sure. You know, I think they've been kind of just messaging it wrong out there, but Anthem isn't the concern. I know we've heard before the Division was the Destiny killer.
I'm with you. I know where you're going. Oh,
dude, the Division 2, everything that they've learned, everything, if you even look back at what Ubisoft has done with Rainbow Six Siege over the last few years, what they've done with, hell, even For Honor, even though I don't play For Honor, but even that community, how they've been able to turn that around, even the original Division, the way they turn that around, they're going into Destiny 2, or into the Division 2 with endgame in mind, the hobby in mind. They're doing things with that game that people want. And that is going to be the one that is going to, I think, really compete with Destiny. Now, I think it's all going to come down to the setting. Do people want to be in a real world setting, or do you want to be in a sci-fi space opera? And also, do you want to play first person, and do you want to play third person? Because really, in the end, that to me was kind of my issue with the Division, was that you go from Destiny where you're bouncing off walls and just bouncing all over the place, shooting laser beams and stuff, and then you go to the Division, you felt very grounded. And I've said it before, it almost gave me a headache playing the Division. As cool as the gameplay loop and the loot and all that was in there, just being so the controls coming from Destiny, it was kind of a hurdle for me to get into. So I think that may be an issue for some people, but I think in terms of the gameplay loop, the Division 2 is going to bring it, man. And I really think it's going to pull a lot of people away. And that's the thing that I think Activision needs to be worried about. And that's what they need to figure out is, we're talking about the Black Armory being the DLC. Yeah, that needs to keep people in, but it's whatever those DLCs, you know, the final, what is it? The Joker's Wild or Joker's Run, whatever it is.
Wild and Penumbra.
Those are the ones that need to be hitting the mark, because once the Division 2 is out there, that's going to be the issue that they're going to have.
Talk that talk.
Like, unfortunately, timing wise, sorry, when you think of Joker's Wild, you've got, that's literally probably about the time those games are going to be out. And that sounds like the smallest one, because it's like an update for Gambit. It's not a raid lair. It's not these other things. It's like an update for Gambit and other things and maybe some activity. That feels like the smallest one at the biggest moment, which sounds like it could be like unfortunately timed. Or the other side is like, do you take Activision and you look at Ubisoft and they're like, okay, Ubisoft may take that early part of the year, spring, something like that, and then they keep doing their big launches in September, somewhat spaced from like the October, November insanity, but they know their annual pass, their kind of continual content is going to keep something around, but they can't compete unless they release a full game at the same time. And then they go, 6 months apart, maybe some people die off and the hype comes back. But as you're saying, if Division does it right and they keep their annual pass is free, right?
I think it is. Yeah, I think all the content.
So
they have raids.
Yeah, I was like, they're gonna have raids, so they're gonna
raids, man. Like, it's, dude, I'm telling you, that game is gonna be.
I know, dude. Listen. Full disclosure. I saw it behind the scenes. I was media at E3, and got a chance to play it. And I am not a Division guy. Like, I gave the first one a shot. I thought it was solid, but I knew the Achilles heel. I told my friends, I don't like the end game aspect. They need a true end game. The Dark Zone was And like you said, Mark, every iteration, Massive Entertainment, they kept coming out with modes. They kept improving the game. They kept listening to computers. Same thing like Rainbow Six Siege, right? Then more modes came out, and I'm like, they're getting it. They're learning. You know what I'm saying? And I think they are coming with adventure. I am in complete agreement. Anthem, I'm a BioWare god. That does not feel like a true BioWare game with the story and the choices and things that I'm used to. I'm not saying the game's not going to be good, but I am very concerned. And the way they're splitting up single player and multiplayer, I'm concerned it's a game I'm going to pick up. But once I beat it, will they have a true end game? They've already said PvP is not available at launch. So there's things there with me that I got a lot of question marks, but I am so with you. Division is the true threat, and I think people are sleeping.
Yep.
Yeah, no, I was like, you guys are pretty much saying everything I'm thinking. So absolutely. No, I was like, seriously, because that was me when I played Division, the first one. It's like I played it hardcore. You leveled up, you hit 30, and then unless you just had like a crew to go run in the dark zone, the leveling up was great. And that end game, as you guys have all said, is like that's been the garbage part of it because you kind of hit that wall, and unless you just love the dark zone and don't want to get trolled all day long, that was the part that hurt. But that leveling up in that game was amazing. So they had a foundation for something that was so good.
If you haven't played the Division in a while, like all the changes they've made, they've essentially made it Diablo. Like you go through these quote unquote dungeons, or I forget what they call it.
Yeah, the underground, right?
The underground, yeah. And it basically becomes just a palette set swap that's just kind of procedurally generated. You go through it, fight a boss at the end, you get some drops. And it's just a ton of fun. And if they take that, layer on the raids, layer on that amazing leveling up experience, like you said, where you're kind of doing the story, plus then all just free content dropping months, a year, hell, even maybe years after the game comes out, they're going to get that community is going to grow, I think. And who knows where the Forsaken or Destiny 2 community is going to be at that point. I mean, I think we're still going to be at a good point. I think a lot of people are still definitely going to be playing Destiny. But I think that whatever that annual pass content is going to be huge at that point.
Question people back. Mark, they're asking Gaming Addict. He said, if we're in charge of how Bungie drops content in a realistic way, like how would you handle the dropping of the content? Would you keep what's going on now with like the standard season pass, with this new annual pass that they've kind of introduced? Would you change anything? How would you go about it?
Honestly, man, I mean, this is all we know right now with this content. I think the problem with Destiny is it's so caught in between wanting to be an MMO, but wanting to be kind of just that classic console game still. And I think, that's kind of why I brought up the reason of a monthly pass. I honestly would be willing to pay a monthly pass if that means more content coming out at a consistent rate, and I'm just paying them a lump sum to continue to play this game that I love. That honestly, I've never, I think, spent more hours in a game world ever than I have than Destiny. I mean, this is the game that I've played probably the most in my life. I used to always say it was the original Mario Brothers on the NES, but it's not. It definitely is friggin' Destiny, man. Like there's no other game I've gotten more value for my money. So I would, if they can promise continued content, that's might be the way that I would say maybe try and do it. Just take the leap and say, you know what? With Destiny 3, we're going much more MMO. You guys have been crying for it. We've been kind of treading the line. I don't want to say crying for the MMO side of like go that full route. And then we've been kind of blurring the line, unsure. We feel confident now in our content. Because also, if you have that monthly fee, that set income coming in, then you can then plan out your development. Right now, they release, they put out Forsaken, like, we're going to put out Forsaken, and it comes out and it doesn't meet expectations. Now, all the money they've been spending on development of whatever the next thing is, you look at that and say, we've spent all this money. We thought we were going to make this money, but we didn't. Now we're going to be our income's not going to be as much. Where if you say, hey, we have this just set income, this many people have spent this much money, this is the money we have to work with. Then you work with the money you already have, and anything else is gravy on top of that, right? And so that might be one of the arguments for a monthly fee, or maybe an annual fee, whatever you want to say, rather than let's just throw something out there and see how it goes. Doesn't meet expectations, but we're already spending all this money on development and now we're screwed. Which again, in the grand scheme of things, these are giant conglomerate companies that they're not hurting at all. When they say they're not meeting expectations, it's literally that. They had a goal set in mind. They didn't meet it. They still made a shit ton of money, right? So,
yeah.
I mean, that's the one thing you kind of look at. It's like they're not losing money on Destiny. Yeah. It's just the CEOs may not get as big of a bonus that they normally get, right? I mean, in the end, that's what we're talking about. And so it's always kind of weird talking about that too. But I think the monthly fee, man, if they can promise the content, I know some people don't like to hear that. And when it comes up, I know people are very just divided with that, but maybe it's not even a monthly fee. Maybe it is like we pay this annual pass, Destiny becomes free, and you pay that annual pass and you get that content. And if you want to piecemeal it out, you can do that.
That's a good point. And I think maybe you're right. Maybe That's why the inclusion of the format, of the annual pass format started. Maybe that's why. Maybe we're starting to see the earlier signs. I mean, we logged in this week. Eververse was a little different, right? She had, direct buy emotes.
Yeah.
For the first time, right? It's like, hey, if you missed out. So they're looking at ways to try to monetize, but they've got to be careful. They've got to be extremely careful, because one thing about this base, if we go back to Festival of Course, if we go back to ridiculous practices or throttling, like how we found out, but they can't afford a third one, man. They can't afford a third blunder. So we'll see, man. This is very interesting. Very interesting stuff.
You guys are awesome. I'm just literally like almost on a sidebar on this podcast, but you guys are knocking it out. That's part of the fun. I'll get you guys on here and let you open
going back when I used to I used to just do just a general gaming podcast. Like that's what I did even before Guardian Radio. And I've been doing the enthusiast life of Chris, and Chris doesn't really play games anymore. So it's not too often that I get to sit down and just talk with somebody about the gaming industry anymore who is just as passionate.
That's literally what we're in. Yeah. So if you listen to Iron Lord's podcast, that they are just all gamers from heart. We're like, NES babies from growing up with it all. It's like, Chrono Trigger is like my favorite game of all time. Those are all things that we grew up in. So you're saying world and all the things you've been through. It's like, I know you've got the Stormtrooper. It's like, we're all basically, big nerds, geeks, all this stuff. Like it hit every cliche we can possibly have. So no, that's why I was like, I'm just sitting back and letting you go, because like this is all the stuff that runs through all our heads, and it's awesome to have you on here. So that's why I was like, keep going.
And I appreciate it, man. It's like I said, we could make this long point all day. I can talk with Mark all day. Like I feel the passion, and I know where he's coming from. And it just these are moments. I always consider like these are moments in gaming, and you kind of get to see where the direction of things change. What happens with Bungie, are they in a similar situation, when they were with Microsoft? They got tired of pumping out Halos, right? And then, the joke is, you went from one and then you went to another devil.
When they signed the deal with Activision, everybody was just like, what are you doing? Because that was even at the point when you mentioned earlier with the Respawn guys. That was, what was it? Wes and Zampella, I think, were the two studio heads that left and created Respawn. And it was because Activision was not giving them the royalties. I think that they were owed from, I think it was Modern Warfare 2. Yeah, I think what it was. And so that just became the whole thing. And then they ended up firing them, and it became a whole lawsuit and all of that. And it's like, that was happening when the word came out that Bungie had signed the deal with Activision. And it was just, everybody was just dumbfounded by that.
Yeah, I agree with that. Then, because of things like that, Titanfall gets birthed, right? Yep. It's so crazy to see what happens. And you maybe hit me with a reality check, man, with the whole, I don't know if it's D3, but at some point, maybe, Matt just says, we cannot keep up with these crazy demands.
Honestly, dude, right now we live in a time where I don't want to say it's entitled gamers, but like
absolutely.
Yeah, and I think that's more part of it. It is just people now can have a voice on the internet, and some people don't understand how to voice themselves properly, like how to voice disappointment, maybe over a certain game going mobile and not coming to your PC tomorrow. But I think, like, I look at my kids, and I hate to keep bringing up my kids, but they're growing up as gamers where games are free. Like, my son will download a new game almost every day on his iPad, a stupid thing just to play and goof around on it, and then he goes back to his Fortnite, which is free. And he has no problem spending a little bit of money. I think now we're at this crossroads where you have these big conglomerate companies who have been just controlling essentially the message of video games for the longest time. Your Activision, even Ubisoft, throw them in, all these companies, that the $60 title now, it might not be the way to go anymore. And I think Epic showed it. Epic is a company. They made Unreal Tournament. Hell, they had the deal with Microsoft for Gears of War and all that, had always been making those games, and finally just said, you know what, we're going to do our own thing. I wouldn't consider them an independent studio, but they said, hey, we're going to jump in and just try this game Fortnite, which had been in development for like 7-8 years, really.
Yeah, you played the actual real Fortnite, not the Battle Royale.
Exactly.
I was about to say low-key stole from PUBG.
And they literally just threw out Battle Royale to cop off PUBG, and that's a whole separate story to talk about, them using the Unreal Engine and all that. But Fortnite hit a mark. Yeah. And they ran with it. And now you have this whole generation of gamers who are going to be growing up saying, I'm not going to spend $60 on a video game when I can go play a free game that, now what, Fortnite's been out, it's over a year now. So you have all these kids that have been playing Fortnite for over a year, essentially for free, even though they've all probably spent more money or their parents' money than they would have had they been playing the standard games. But Epic is raking in millions.
Oh,
Right.
And
So
it's
much
like that
insane
may
about
be the way for companies to go now. I mean, just hell, make Destiny free to play and then throw in all these other things that people can buy.
Or at the very least, you may see a battle royale mode.
Oh, give me a Destiny Battle Royale map. That would be amazing. I don't think any computer could run 50 supers going off at the same time.
God, yeah, imagine that. A mayhem battle royale mode. And it's just super.
Oh, that would be so much fun. I can only imagine like that. You have to have dedicated servers, but man, I want to see that in action. I don't care where you put that. Give me a battle royale with like, let me see 20 hammers flying between 10 Nova bombs and
throwing hammers across the map, just hoping one of them just hits.
Yeah, and Chaos reaches just straight across, and you have like 3 hunters going across just to kill everybody invisible. I mean, that would be that'd be so amazing.
Look at Activision. They've tried their hand. They Call of Duty has a battle royale mode. What you call a Battlefield? That's
Blackout.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So Blackout is actually pretty fun. I don't know if you've played that. Yeah, it's actually so take PUBG, like an attempt by a smaller developer, and they've tried to make it pretty well. Then you take a AAA polish on something like that, and that is one of their main 3 tiers of that game. It's a lot of fun, and it's
battle royale, but it feels good to. It actually the controls are good.
Yeah,
none of these battle royale games ever. That's why I hate Fortnite. That's why I hate. I don't necessarily hate PUBG, but it's like it just doesn't feel good to shoot the guns.
Yep.
This is Call of Duty, but with that game mode layered on top of it. It's a blast. It's a ton of fun to play.
Really good, man.
Yeah, that's the type. Yeah, but to bring it all back to kind of that whole annual pass thing, it's like you see studios like Telltale and stuff like that, and all the developers there, they're just losing their jobs because they got extended too far. And then you have people like Rockstar where they're spending hundreds of hours in doing these things, but in turn you have people are like, they'll say they got mad at Telltale and they don't even think about the developers at all who they lost their jobs, but be like, hey, I want my other episode of Walking Dead. You should just develop it for free. Yeah. I was like, and the stuff that somebody's like, hey, you should make it for free. I'm like, these people have to spend their lives to make this stuff. And that disconnect, as you're saying, your kids, not throwing yours under the bus, just general. Trust me, my brother's kids do the same thing. And it's like they're in that mentality of like, well, I'm not going to pay for games. They just literally come with things. It's like, and how do you balance that as a developer in a studio to spend? Not everything's going to be that Fortnite magical hit that makes you money for being free. So that's like a tough, as you said, like gaming's at a weird crossroads right now with Fortnite throwing a wrench into things. $60 games are technically undervalued because they should probably be $100 for what Destiny takes to actually make and pay for. Like, how do you actually push forward to say, like, what should a game really cost right now? I mean, how many hours do you get out of these things? How many hours did I get out of Mega Man 3 and I paid $60 for it? Like,
yeah.
So I mean, that's
news, y'all just breaking news. They're saying like Titanfall 3 just is definitely coming. In 2019 too. So that's another one added to the competition sphere. You know what I'm saying? And I always felt Titanfall was a good franchise. I just felt that the first one lacked content. The second one was really good, but it had the worst release date ever.
Yes. Yeah, it was actually a lot of fun. The story on that's like 6 hours. It's great.
It's great, right?
Yeah, so good. So my favorite mechanic from that, sorry, the little time travel back and forth in that one mission. I love that little mechanic they did.
Oh yeah. It was like something would be on fire and then you travel back and then you could get through that space and you had to kind of keep going back and forth. Yeah, that was awesome.
Yeah, man. Yeah, it's an interesting time because, like I said, is this model antiquated? Can they sustain it? A lot of questions, man. Definitely a lot of questions.
So, I mean, that was kind of the big thing is like, is Activision's, I mean, you guys, half your chat's been saying it too, is Activision's expectations unreal because they're making so much money. But again, it's like, if you guys kill a player base off, you are going to hurt yourself a lot more than, giving Bungie a little more time, not having your expectations. So you get this $10 trillion bonus. It's only like 5 billion. Like you're still going to be okay. The pockets are going to be fine. It's just, I don't know. It's those kind of greedy corporate nature. Sometimes you wonder. It's like
right now in movies, man. And we're talking about corporate culture. Star Wars. You had Last Jedi come out, which again people divided. So that's part of the reason why people didn't go see Solo. But Solo didn't meet expectations.
Right.
So they canceled every single. They were going to do a Boba Fett movie. Done. Not happening. So anything they were going to do theatrically, that was the Star Wars. Out the window because it didn't meet expectations. They still made a crap ton of money off Solo. It's sad as a fan to see that. And so I think that's kind of the situation here. And it worries you, us as Destiny players. It's like, all right, well, it didn't meet expectations. What does that mean for us? What are we going to miss out on that we possibly could have gotten if it did meet? Like, what if it did meet expectations? What would they have been saying? Like, oh, this is great. We're so happy. It's on a great path. Did he bring up at any point in this all about the fan base loving the game right now?
I think they actually have said, like, the hardcores like it a lot. Some of the casuals may have been away, but it's like the game is like favored right now, so they're trying to balance. And that was either Polygon or Shire's article. Somebody basically said they're trying to balance, like, the game's in a good spot, but they have to get that influx back somehow, and they can't, and they don't know what to do. Like, it's a point where they're like, they're at a crossroads as well. Like, how do we appease both sides of this? How do we still make a decent release and some money, but keep these people who love this game right now and not run them all away?
Yeah, he literally says, what is his name? Cody Johnson, Activision said, we have not yet seen the full core re-engage in Destiny. He said, which has led to the underperformance against expectations to date. Some players are in wait and see mode. If you're in, you're deeply engaged. If not, we think now's the time to bring players back. So again, to me, when I hear that, I'm concerned. And then when he mentions, specifically monetization, like, that's scary to me. Like,
that's where the issue is. Yeah. Because now it's like those who we have been able to re-engage and bring back, how do we monetize them? And that's what they're going to start looking at. And that's when you start to see the little nefarious things of XP throttling or, things like that. Not that that's necessarily going to come back, but that's when Activision steps in and says, all right, now we got to put in these other ways to monetize those people who are there. Of course, they want to bring players back in, but it's like, all right, well, we have these players. How do we monetize them? And that's where the issue is going to be.
Right. I agree.
So again, that's what your current active player base is probably scared about, to be like, don't buy my game you just fixed.
Right. Because one thing I've learned, what's that old expression? Like, the definition of insanity is repeating the same thing, expecting different results. If you mess up again and you piss off this hardcore again, like, to me, remember, when we started Flashpoint, we laughed at ourselves, like, why are we doing this at the lowest point, right?
Right.
And Destiny 2 was a meme. It was a joke. It was so dragged through social media. You guys are still playing that? Who plays that game? It comes up again, right? And, to see them build it back brick by brick. And if they, again, I'm hoping not, because we heard good things about D3. We've heard hardcore mechanics. This may not affect the short term, what we see as far as what we know about, the rumors that have leaked. Shout out to Anonymous 9. But, at the end of the day, it's very concerning. They cannot afford to have a D2 vanilla moment again. The base is already burnt. Not all of the base came back for Forsaken. We know that. And they risk some real serious damage if they really alter the monetization and the mechanics of this game to either casualize it or just be greedy. And that they can't do. They can't do, man.
Nope. Yeah. I was like, one time in Destiny's life, I want a full game to come out that doesn't feel like it got completely chopped in half and had to be remade in 12 months. Because like D1, you have the whole thing about Marty and everything going on there, and then it feel like the story we know was different. Like Aldrin was, all that whole bunch was weird, and then Taken King goes, big giant band-aid. Okay, we've learned, and we actually had the time we needed. Do it all over again, and you hear in D2, like, why did it feel half empty or casualized? But also, it's like, what, it was almost made in 16 months, I heard as well. So I love the fact that it might be 2020 and we're hearing about D3 now, because maybe they finally have the time to do one right. And I think that's one thing that's kind of screwed them over for these initial years, is like, hey, it's a really good concept, but you botch some stuff that's enough that people aren't going to hang around. Oh, right. Year 2 comes back, you might get, as they say, 60% of their player base back, and then you might maintain them for 2 years. D2, okay, you stubbed your toe like real bad. You broke your toe. You did it all over again. And then you come around, Forsaken's this like amazing release, probably the best 8 it's ever been. Can we not do this a third time? That's all. I mean, that would be the biggest thing. Because like, as you said, we had one giant like thing screw up Taken King. We did it again. We've learned, we've been through this twice. Like, burn me once, it's on you. Burn me twice, it's on me. Like, people aren't going to do it a third time. That's, I think, going to be one of the biggest things is you have a lot of competition. They'll have to see things to watch. And again, we don't know what the business model is going to be, whether it's annual. I mean, what if it was like you pay a monthly fee and I get like a strike a month, or I get a new Crucible? But if they did some of those drops just more consistently, that would be those things I think that would help that annual pass. But man, D3 is, I'd love to see just a real full development cycle make it into a Destiny, because that's what Taken King, that's what Forsaken actually are, is the full time that they need.
Fair.
Yeah. So I think I was like, we could run this into the ground for hours because obviously we're gamers for life. So Mark, it's been absolutely awesome. But before we go, I did this to Cognito a little while ago, and any guest we have on in the future, this is what I'm going to ask. Now I'll kind of give you a little bit to think about it, and I'll kind of give you a history of mine. So, and I know it's a lot of pressure with no like heads up, but that's kind of the point. Top 3 moments in your Destiny career ever. Now, for example, while you think, I can give you mine. Mine was, for example, when I 2-manned Crota with a buddy of mine and we did it flawless. Like that moment of like actually doing that whole thing together. So that's just an example. So top 3 moments in all of Destiny, whatever they were for you, just those moments, whether it's fist, doesn't matter.
Whew. You're up. No pressure. No pressure.
Do they have to be in any order or no?
Nope. Yeah, I mean, no, you don't have to order them.
Let's see. One of them, and this one, you know, we talked earlier about how we've been doing it for a long time. First one, honestly, you talked about you played Destiny in the alpha. I was in the pre-alpha.
Ooh.
The first time I signed in, and this was when, if you guys remember, you can go back, you can find stories of this online, where people were thinking there was a music player coming to the PlayStation 4. And it was like, oh my God, like, you know, all these CEOs for Sony and all these people are playing this music player. What is the music player demo? It was called. What is the music player demo? What is it? It ran for 2 weeks. And we were basically in February of 2013 playing Destiny on the piano. That was one of the most surreal, just awesome moments. Now, at that time, my son was, what, 5 years younger? And I had to tell him, like, don't go to school. You can't tell people that you're seeing this. And I'm playing it. Every day he would come home from school asking if anybody found out and if I was going to get arrested. That definitely was one of the best. Like, for me, that's an awesome.
Awesome. Yeah.
Number 2 was probably the launch day of the Crota raid. And that whole experience in general of going down to that pit and all the thralls coming at you. And I think day 1, we only made it to the bridge. I don't think we were able to beat the bridge. But just playing with the clan mates that I had that day was just phenomenal. I think we played for, 6-7 hours, whatever it was. I literally packed a lunch, so I didn't even need to leave the room.
Yes.
So much fun doing that. And then the third one, I think I've actually mentioned this before on we did a panel, I think the first Guardian Con, you were at it, Bontis. I don't know if you were in the panel. Yeah, actually, I think we were talking about, it wasn't even a Guardian radio panel. It was just about podcasting.
Yeah.
And that one it was myself and K-Dub and my son doing, I want to say, I think it was Prison of Elders, whatever it was that week. And my son just kept dying over and over. So you had the Bubble Bros in there protecting my son as much as we could. In that last encounter so long that the music gave up. You know what? I'm done. The music, which I don't even think that's ever happened to anybody else, but we played that encounter for so long that they just stopped. Oh my gosh. Out. We were laughing our asses off so much. Like, how are we in here so long that the music? So it was just fun. I mean, for me, when I look back at my moments in Destiny, it's more not necessarily the accomplishments that I've had. It's just the fun that I've had. And I think that's what, we talked earlier, how great the Destiny community is. I mean, that really is the whole point of this game. It's brought people together. It's all about fun and just enjoying these experiences with others.
Yeah, I'll put a cherry on the sundae with that. And I think as much as we rag D2 Vanilla's launch, one cool thing they did was the whole homage to
the montage back.
Things you completed. And I saw like gamer tags and names of people like maybe I haven't played with a while.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, man, I remember when we did King's Fall on hard. Oh, that was so tough.
Yep.
Yeah, like one of my shout out to my guy Frodo. He's part of Play That Gaming, and like I remember it was like on my list. I was like, I need the Crotas. I mean, not Crota, the Oryx on hard. And it's like when we beat that thing, man, it was like we went through Vietnam. That was like my blood. Get that man over here with me on any raid from now on. I know he's got my back. You know what I'm saying? He's gonna run that sword or whatever. It's just those moments, man. And that's one thing I think we got to give them some credit. Like they really captured that with that like triumph when you launched the game. And you're like, oh yeah, I remember exactly where I was and what was happening at that point.
Yeah, I think you both literally said it without saying it, is every one of the moments we all typically look back on. The encounters are part of it, but we remember the people we were next to in arms fighting through it. And that's the pieces this game can do is like, as you said, that's your brother in battle, and you get done, you're all of a sudden like, you may have gone through your first raid with somebody, and you look back at that name, you're like, dude, that guy could be part of your clan now, or that group. And
yes, that's what happened.
Friendships that have been made, the podcasts that have been started, the like hands you've shaken of people from Guardian, like that's all together in full circle what this game has done. You guys said it. It's the experiences, like yours is with your son, like mine's with one of my best friends, those things that you've all done, and it's the people you're with paired with this game and its community that somehow has made this something that it's hard to touch what this thing has done.
Shout out to
it's hard to explain to people. It's hard to explain to people too. You know, some people don't get it. It's one of those things like you just need to play the game. And I have a friend who I used to podcast with years and years ago when we just kind of do our general shows, and he didn't come out when we did Guardian Radio. But I've been telling him, man, you got to check out Destiny. Check out Destiny. And so he got Destiny 2 when this is before Forsaken, when it was like what, $15 or something like that. And he played it and he enjoyed it, but he like refused to go out to find other people to play with. Yeah. And I'm just like, you don't understand. That's how you play this game. He's like, no, I don't want to play. I don't want other people ruining my experience. I'm like, they're not. This game, you're going to find people that will help you, that are willing to get you through the raids, get you through these things. And he gave up after a little while. And it was just, I couldn't convey to him really what Destiny is. So he looks at Destiny just as kind of like many people probably did with Destiny 2. It's a game you play, you finish the campaign, you're done. You get everything out of it that I think he should have, and that many of us have. And so I think that's something that, you know, Bungie luckily has kind of brought back with Forsaken. And I think the hurdle that Activision keeps talking about is they got to find a way to get all those people back in and get that feeling back for everyone, and really broaden that out to more people. Because I'm sorry, man, there is no other better gaming experiences than some of those raids. When you accomplish that with a team for the first time, there is no better feeling than that.
Talk, Mark. I love that.
But it is, man.
I mean, every one of those raid encounters, like I actually got to do, what was it? The Seaver raid. I can't ever remember the name of it.
Wrath of the Machine, baby.
Wrath of the Machine. Yeah. Like I got to do that one basically blind with some friends. For those blind raids, if you've ever done one, those are some of the, like you're just digging. You're like, what is going on? You're bashing your heads. You're talking together. Could it be this? There's a light bulb that happens. Those little moments. Like, oh man. And it's with that group. But it's like, oh, those little experiences. And that's like, I came from World. There were 40-person raids, but I was like, I came in later. They kind of had the strategies in there. The 6-person is almost it's that level of mechanics you need, but that intimate encounter of 6 sounds like a lot for some people, but it is still fairly small in those spaces that they make. And they're just, every little cog in that wheel has to be going right, especially now with like Last Wish. There's almost no room for error. And you know, when you get to the end of that thing, you finally open that final chest, like we absolutely clutched every piece of that. And you get done. There's like a smile from ear to ear. Your heart's probably pumping from like the Riven fight or whatever's going on. So it's just,
it's funny. Wow, actually, this year when Battle for Azeroth came out, I dove in just to kind of get that free month to play, and I went back to whatever the previous raid was from whatever the hell the last expansion was before Battle for Azeroth, and I've never done a WoW raid. I was like, you know what, I'm gonna go in just looking for raid. Jumped in. And it was fun, of course, but like you said, everybody knew the mechanics. There were 40 people there, however many, and it was so like non-social, if that makes sense. It was just kind of like, I'm just gonna sit here and do my thing. Where when it comes down to the Destiny raids, there are 6 people. Sure, there are some raids where people can be carried, but like you said, everybody needs to play their role and do their part. And when it all comes together perfectly and you all get over that hurdle, that's it. There's nothing like that anywhere else in gaming. I'm sorry.
And shout out to my boy Gaming Atticus in the chat. I mean, he's so fun to play raid with, and I'm one of those guys like he's got these great ideas, and at times I'm like, I don't know, man, if this is gonna work. And then the next thing you know, it's like Ibonza said, that light bulb goes off, and I'm like, wait a minute, we may have something. I'm just thinking of the cable guy and throwing the ball, the dodge balls, and just fun moments and sliding underneath the door. Just it's so many moments that Destiny has like that. It's the best. I'll preface it because Ivan just gets mad when I say it's the best cooperative experience ever. He says he throws his WoW card up, but I will say like Destiny raids, in my opinion, on console is the greatest cooperative experience I've ever experienced in gaming. There's nothing like a Destiny raid, in my opinion.
Hard to argue with that. So, well, you handled that question a lot easier, but you've probably been asked it a few times before, I guess. But yeah. Took us a little longer to think of it. You're just like bam, bam, bam. I was like, well, that's not a challenge. I got to come up with something harder next time.
I mean, dude, I get asked that all the time. You know, that's something
Yeah.
that we get emails. I mean, even yeah, people are always asking, "What's your favorite moment from Destiny?" So,
yeah. So you've rehearsed that one a few times.
6 years, man. So we've been around the block, Destiny, when it comes to talking about.
Yeah. But no, man, this has been awesome. Like, it sounds like we could probably talk for another couple hours, but we all do have a little bit of life. But yeah, this has been amazing. I want to thank you for coming on. This has been so much fun. And again, one of those times where we get to the end and we're like, or it was like the day or two before, I was like, I wonder what we're going to talk about. Can't wait for TWAB. And then this whole thing happens and we go off on an 1.5-hour tangent on sales and speculations and talking about Division and Anthem. We're like, all right, cool. That's what happens every time we do these. So Flashpoint by title is deceiving, usually not flashy.
Long point.
Long point indeed. So I should put flash in quotes actually up there. That'd be kind of a funny inside joke. But yeah, I just want to thank you just for chat. For you guys have been awesome today. I haven't been talking as much just because I've been like knee deep listening to everything you guys are saying. It's been awesome today. So for me, and again, just the first podcast I listened to like IGN. I've listened to other ones like, as you said, Giant Bomb. There's so many that I've listened to, but you guys were literally the first. So it was like from my side, like I can't thank you enough. Thank you.
Well, thanks for having me here, man. And, I'm glad to hear that. That again, like I said before, I appreciate the fact that so many people now have discovered podcasting because of Guardian Radio. And so, if anything, when all's said and done, at the end of the day, when we record that final episode of Guardian Radio, I can go back and look at that. That people have discovered podcasting. And dude, anytime you guys want to have me back, man, I would love to come back. I mean, this is, talking Destiny, talking video games is something that I love doing it. So
yeah, man, for sure. You back too. Absolute pleasure, man, to have you here. Just listening to you, like I said, I consider you on that Destiny Mount Rushmore. You know what I'm saying? Those pioneers, man, that paved the way, and you guys are still doing it at a high level. And I love the panel you got. Everything's cool. Met everyone. Everyone's really cool, and just to see you guys continue to do it, man, it's great. It's an honor to have you. And of course, you are more than welcome to come back anytime, man.
Anytime, seriously.
It's big love, man.
All right, awesome, guys. I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, well, I guess we'll wrap it up. Mark, first, I mean, where can they find you, especially if they, if they haven't heard of you before?
You don't know who this is. Where can you find them?
Guardian Radio. You can obviously Google Guardian Radio. You'll find us all over. But our website is theguardiansofdestiny.com, which honestly there isn't really much happening there. I mean, there's even weeks where I don't even post the website or the podcast up there just because it's like, people are getting it in their feeds or finding it on whatever podcast service they use. But of course on iTunes, search Guardian Radio. You can find our feed there. Any of the podcast apps that are out there, you can find us. We do our show on Mesa Sean's YouTube channel now. We made that switch about 6 months ago now. YouTube.com/Mesa Sean. And you can find the show live there every Monday night, as well as the archive version of it over there. And you can follow us on Twitter at Guardians of D, because we're all guarding the D, which
there's no jokes in there, right?
Yeah. So you can Guardian Radio was taken. To be fair, Guardian Radio was taken. So Guardians of D, you can find us there on Twitter. And personally, you can find me at Mark Turk. That's MarkTurc. And often you just find me just tweeting about nerdy stuff. Like you guys have mentioned, I used to do Paragon Radio. Don't do that anymore. We were doing the Enthusiast Life, which actually we've kind of wrapped up. My buddy Chris and I were just going to just keep doing this Doctor Who show, which is just a crazy show that we started. We've seen all these people that love Doctor Who, and I've always wondered, like, what the hell is with it? If you watch an episode of Doctor Who, that is the wackiest show that is out there. So basically every week we're starting from the beginning, going through just laughing our asses off, just breaking down the show. It's funny. And we're really, I don't even know who our audience is. We're two American guys who've never watched this show. So I'm hoping most of our audience are British people who are real big fans of Doctor Who, listening to us two idiots talking about it every week. But it's more of a reason for me and Chris. I mean, we went to kindergarten together. We've been friends all throughout school. Nice. Really just a reason for us to get together once a week and have some laughs. And if you want to come along, that show is called The Tardy TARDIS, because the TARDIS is a little thing Doctor Who uses. We're coming late to it. We're tardy. So, and it just sounds funny, the Tardy TARDIS. Other than that, I think that's probably, the best places to find me out there.
Yeah. Cognito, what about you, man?
Lord Cognito on Twitter, and obviously the host of Iron Lords podcast. Man, absolute pleasure, Bob, for you coming through. When the Bontes told me you were coming through, I was like, I was fanboying out. I was like, oh, I got to cook them up an intro, man. Okay.
You gave me a good intro, man. I like it.
Yeah, man. Like that's what we do in the realm of the Lords. It's every Sunday during football season, 11 a.m. Eastern Standard on the Iron Law Podcast YouTube channel. Lords will be in the realm this Sunday. We got a fairly decent show. I think we have a Dreamcast guy and Kid Smooth on. We will be discussing the breakdown of XO18 in Mexico City to see if Xbox is on the right track.
Today? Does that start today or tomorrow?
I believe I think it's today and tomorrow.
Today and tomorrow, right?
Yeah. So I got to look at the Mixer stream and see what's going on. So we're going to break that whole stuff down, see if any studios get announced, all that good stuff, as well as some really cool topics, going on. So again, every Sunday is the Lord's Day, 11 a.m. Eastern Standard. Catch that. And we're also on the famous, the audio medias as well, Spotify, all that good stuff. And check us out. And obviously, that Flashpoint every Friday, 9 a.m. with my brethren, Ibantes. Always talking that Destiny talk, and I'm so glad it's moments like this that it really comes home. You really appreciate it, and just talking to other passionate content creators. And we have Mark the Legend today, so my day's complete. I made it now. I'm good.
Yeah, seriously, man, I was like, never quite know how it's gonna go having a guest or anything like that. But I mean, you're podcast professional. Seriously, you could run the whole thing without us even here, but. No, it's been an absolute honor. Pleasure is definitely on this side of the table. So thank you very much. Big fan of a long time. Mine's pretty simple. It's Ibantes everywhere. Kind of a good thing about having a weird name. It's easy to find. But it's Twitch, Twitter, YouTube. For you guys lately, just all the support lately for all my stuff lately has been crazy. So for me, just my channel, you guys just keep it coming. I can't thank you all enough for the support. It's been great. And if you haven't
solo videos, bro. Killing that offended challenge.
I actually meant to ask you, Mark, have you done Shattered Throne yet?
I haven't. No, haven't yet. Nope.
You gotta watch it.
I was gonna say that Shattered Throne is almost my favorite thing from this because I never saw it coming, and it's so cool. It's like the perfect 3-man thing that you'll ever It's exactly what I wish there were 20 more.
You need to be to enter it. Well, to be your whole squad. What light level should everybody be at least?
To finish at about 580. You can go in and do the first area. We did about 560. Then we got to the main ogre in the middle, about 580, and got worked. Went out about 585, 590. Yeah, you can do it at that point, but it's definitely high level.
Gotcha.
But yeah, that'll wrap it up, guys. Thank you. Chat's been awesome. Both sides of it. Mark, again, can't thank you enough. And I think that's where we're going to wrap it up. So thank you guys for tuning in. It's been amazing. You guys know where to find all of us, and we'll see you guys next week.
Later.